everybody, and welcome to Roundtable Live. I'm giving my co-host an indication that it's time to stop talking, and now we're live on the show. Hey, how you doing, guys?
And then the comment below says, "I think I'm cuter, don't you think so?" Winky face.
Nice.
What's going on?
Man, we're so talkative today. Normally, it's just like this stoic silence before we begin. Everyone just sitting here staring at one another, but now we're all lively, right? We're good to go.
The reason is there's twice as much egg on the show this week.
That is true.
Right.
It's a weird amount. We're here joined today of my esteemed co-hosts, of course, return here for Roundtable Live for July 29th, 2016. I'm BaerTaffy, joined by Northern Line Mathis Games. Dan Gheesling coming back to the show after popular demand. Dan, welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having us. What is Mathis eating right now?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Or something. What is
Continue.
What are you eating, man?
What are you eating? Knackerbread?
Hey, Mathis, what you eating?
That's not a topic on the podcast.
That's a new segment we're starting.
It's a new segment. Hey, Mathis, what you eating?
A lemon croissant donut.
Ooh,
Wow.
yummy.
Croissant donut.
All right. After Mathis lets us know what he's eating every single week here on Hey Mathis, what you eating? We rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm going to give that 4 croissants out of 5, personally.
It's a 3.5.
I'm gonna give that 2. I don't like lemon, like fruity donuts. I like, donuts with more refined taste, like a maple or a whiskey or something.
Maple fine donut taste.
I'll tell you what, though, man. Like, every fancy donut place I've been to has been super disappointing. They're all about the presentation and not about the flavor.
Oh yeah,
They're like make a fancy donut.
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't
it's
work.
a donut.
They're chopping up bacon and putting it on the top of the donut, and you're like, oh, that looks good. And then you bite into it, and you're like, this is just a meat donut.
Yeah.
It's like,
You got
doesn't
like
work that
you
well.
got like an inch and a half of Fontaine, and then like maybe a little smackerel of bacon.
that is actually the first pornographic film I starred in. An inch and a half of Fontaine. I played Dick Fontaine.
Dick Fontaine.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man, the first of many. Indicative there. Okay. Also joining us here back from last week is Last Grey Wolf. Or no, it was last week, right? Or was it the week before?
Yes,
Sorry,
it was
no.
last week.
Okay, good. Hi, welcome back.
Yeah. I got a haircut.
You
as
did.
You can see
Yeah, you want to give us the background story there?
Well, I did a fundraiser. One of the goals was to shave my head, and people were really enthusiastic about that one. We met it, and so I shaved my head. And apparently it looks really good, is what people are saying.
It's a nice look for you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too opposed to it. Who knows? I might keep it, but then I might get sued by the other guy in here.
No, he's very protective of his brand.
It is funny though when someone shaves their head how closely related they look. Like they could be second cousins.
What
right
are
now.
you talking about?
All bald people look the same.
That's what Dan's
Extremely
saying.
offensive.
Dan,
You three look way more related than the two of us do.
Well,
get all
me,
these,
Mathis, and
like-
Dan?
Yeah,
Just because of the head of hair, huh?
Blonde hair,
Wow.
white guys,
I don't know about this.
eyebrows.
Me and Mathis
Thanks.
do have quite a bit going on between the two of us right now, to be honest with you. Yeah, our heads are very
that's-
similar.
Hair.
Yeah. So, okay, you got a point.
You got a
Austin is
better
like
voice than I do, though.
Austin's like a face morph of like me at the top and then Nick at the bottom.
That's what people have been saying.
That's
yeah.
pretty good,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, that's accurate.
I do look at Last Grey Wolf as like a spin-off of Nick. He's kind of like, he's part of Nick's genetics.
We do
like
wanna-
they're similar in nature. Like
Yeah.
they're very analytical and very like just they're the guys in the group that are like chill. When Mathis is going wild, Nick and Austin walk in and Mathis kind of like
Can't control this.
sits in
This is the wild one.
When Nick was like 7, he went to Jurassic Park and one of his hairs like floated into the gene vat or something. And then
Austin, I mean that in a
that's
complimentary
just
way.
my history, man. I'm
Well-
not insulted at all.
For those wondering, no, we didn't just go pick up the scientific knockoff brand of Nick at a Walmart somewhere with Austin here. No, Nick is
Come on. Kmart. Kmart.
Kmart.
Nick is recovering from a pretty major oral dental procedure, so we wish him well in his recovery
let's
there.
not play into his ego too much. It was a routine surgery.
It was much.
He's dying.
It was
Everybody's in
much
his
more
box.
significant than anything I've ever had. He had like a bad root canal that he was fixing up, along with getting some wisdom teeth removed. So it was.
Oh, can I pull a weird game?
Oh yeah,
On Nick's
Yeah.
behalf? Okay.
hell yeah, let's do that. I like Dan's weird games.
So excited.
Well, because I have
Can you
two
say
weird
no to
games.
that? Is that possible? I don't think.
I'm not
With
allowed
that
legally.
inflection, yeah.
We have a minimum quota for segments that we have to have on the show. We nearly got a pass with that whole "Hey Mathis, what you eating?" bit, but I don't know. I think we're gonna have to meet some higher standards here. All right,
That's understandable.
let's talk about the docket today. That sounds like a good plan. We're going to be talking about Nintendo NX and the new details released about the console. We actually have something concrete this time, so that's a lot of fun and exciting. Star Citizen has to refund about $3,000 to a particular backer. This is a story actually that Dan brought to me about an hour ago, so I'm mostly going to deflect to him for that conversation.
And you finally asked for your money back.
Wow. Not going to touch that one until the proper time, man.
Yeah, good. Microsoft cuts the price of the Xbox One to $249, preceding the release of the Xbox One S. Also, Sonic's 25th anniversary is here. We get a little bit of details about Sonic's new entry, Sonic Mania, along with a classic game console package that Sonic is putting together, or Sega is putting together, sorry. Also, Telltale's new multiplayer feature and what that doesn't mean for Twitch streaming, unfortunately, which is a little bit contradictory to earlier in the week when we read that. Along with We Happy Few's early access release and Quadrilateral Cowboy to round out the day of discussion. But to start off with, as I mentioned, we got new details about Nintendo's new console, the NX, and they've surfaced via Eurogamer. Eurogamer has published an article citing multiple sources within the industry claiming that the NX will be a portable handheld console with detachable controllers. Very interesting stuff here. So we've got the I believe this is just like the patent image that was on file for this console here. Let me see if I can get up a good view of this for the Twitch viewers here. There we go. That ought to look pretty good. So there's the visual aid. For those of you who are audio-only listeners, I'll give you a quick breakdown of what we're looking at here. So you've got basically what equates to a big old DS. So you got like a very simple gamepad here, and you've got these detachable side parts that have a joystick and a D-pad on the left side and a joystick and the 4 face buttons on the right side. So apparently you can remove those from the display on either side, and then it acts as a sort of like high-powered mobile console as a result of that. It's pretty straightforward here based on the image that we can see, and this is not too dissimilar actually to ideas that have been floating around about what the console is going to be in the first place. So glad to see that we've got some solid stuff. So guys, thoughts initially here. Dan, you're probably pretty excited for this, right?
Yeah, I saw initially there, I don't know if it was like a fake image, but it was almost like an oval controller and the whole thing was a screen. Did you guys ever see that? May have been like a month or so ago.
I think it was a little while back. Mm-hmm.
And I think, I'm excited about this, number one, because Nintendo, and number two, I think that they're kind of meshing what they do well. I don't think anyone's going to argue that the 3DS has been, their most successful venture, in the past couple consoles they've released, and I think that's what they excel at. So to find a way to integrate it in a non-cumbersome way, like the Wii U was very cumbersome, I think it's got some potential. But ultimately, it comes down to one thing, and that's the games. And are they going to make a Metroid? And this is what baffles me about Nintendo. And I think they're turning the corner. Why haven't they made a Metroid? Why haven't they made another Kid Icarus? Why haven't they made these like awesome IPs that look what they did for Pokemon? I know we're not going to talk about Pokemon Go, but if they released an Animal Crossing on this, people are just going to go nuts. It's almost like Nintendo's out of touch with what they're really good at, and they try to keep innovating when they don't necessarily have to. But on the flip side, I think if they have some games that are the old IPs, I think it's going to do really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I won't rush to judgment too much until we actually see this thing. But from what I've heard, I'm not a fan. I'm in the same boat as Dan, where I'm more worried about the games. Nintendo to me has always been a games company. I mean, we've always bought their consoles not because they're crazy, super powerful consoles or crazy wacky consoles. Maybe the Wii was a little wacky, but we've just enjoyed the games. And from Nintendo, I haven't seen any sort of sign of where these games are at, except for Zelda. Zelda looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. But nothing has convinced me to not just get this new Zelda game just on the Wii U. And I don't know, the whole portable thing is not... Me personally, I don't want to play games on the go. I'm not a portable gaming guy. I like to sit down in front of a TV, a big TV, and just get engrossed in a game. I don't travel enough, and even when I do travel, I'm usually not playing games while I'm traveling. And at the very least, I'm usually, if I am playing games, I'm playing a 3DS. So is this going to take me away from the 3DS? Is it going to add to the 3DS experience? I don't know, but. it's not looking good for me, this new console so far. But we haven't seen it yet, so
That's an interesting question to posit there, is whether or not this is going to be like a replacement to the 3DS for some people, or even a replacement to the Wii U for some people. So there's a couple of different factors to consider there, of course, ahead of most of them probably being the fact that if you have a Wii U already, you kind of have one of the main appeals to a console like this already in your home. Like, I think about wanting to have a console where you can, just pick up the entirety of it and just sit and play on your couch, and it has like that same level of home console power without having to dedicate the home theater to it, right? And the Wii U sort of has that to the capacity that any game wants to allow you to play the entirety of the thing on the device. But I wonder if this is really that much different, or if there's a selling point beyond what we can see at face value that would maybe make the NX a little bit more enticing.
I guess we need more information, but this is just shouting to me that Nintendo still has no fucking idea what it's doing when it comes to home consoles. Because who is the target audience here? Everybody who's bought a 3DS and another 3DS and another 3DS and another 3DS doesn't want to fucking buy another mobile console because they've bought the past 4 iterations of 3DSs. And if it's as powerful as my Wii U, why in God's name would I replace my Wii U? They've already said the new Zelda game is going to be the exact same experience on both consoles. Why would I end up replacing my Wii U with this console just because it has portability? I mean, the way they're going to get people to buy it is to make games exclusive on this console, obviously. But if they don't do that, then there's just no whose audience here. Who's going to be buying this? I've bought 3 versions of this 3DS. I don't want to buy another goddamn handheld, and I hope they don't force me to buy another damn handheld for a long ass time. And I don't see it being a powerful home console if it's also going to be a portable console. So I don't see the point.
I don't mean to rag on you, but I just hear you say, "Who's gonna buy this? I've bought the 3 previous versions, so Lord knows I'm not buying the 4th."
Because they keep making games exclusive on each new iteration of the 3DS. Like, I can't play certain games on older 3DSs because the older ones are not compatible with the newer stuff. They force me to, and if they do it again, I guess that's a way to get me to get the console. But I'm sick of having to buy new goddamn handhelds every single time.
What about new amiibos to add to your exclusive?
Just keep pumping out amiibos, and also Nintendo can float purely on my amiibo purchasing power.
Oh, Northern Line, what do you think?
I just don't care.
You hate Nintendo.
I don't hate Nintendo, but I don't. I don't have much of an opinion on this. Like, before consoles are actually announced. We talked to a source whose uncle works at Nintendo, and they told us they're going to use an Intel Celeron processor in it, and this is what this means. Based on the plastic manufacturer that they've said they're going to use, here's our mock-up of what the console's going to look like and its specs.
We're a little deeper than that now, though. Let's be honest, man. Like, this isn't your uncle downloaded the blueprints onto a flash drive and brought it to 2nd grade show and tell. Like, this is a pretty in-depth report. So we've got, the solid foundation for what to expect now.
Still, though, I don't know. I have to wait and see, the actual pitch from Nintendo, I think. Because I think you guys are right that, a portable console, it sort of straddles the line conceptually of, is this a new iteration of handheld, or is it a replacement for the Wii U, or is it something that's meant to exist kind of, independent of those? Maybe it's another style of console altogether. But, I guess it is disappointing that it doesn't seem like, if this is true, Nintendo's putting out a new console that will be, on the same level of power as the PS4 or Xbox One, or even more powerful. It seems like they're going for another style of gimmick, which is, I feel like it's a 50-50 chance with Nintendo, or at least there's 2 different outcomes. You either get something that's cool, like the Wii, and the software library for that ended up sucking a little bit as it got older, but or you get something that people are not necessarily that interested in developing for, especially third party like the Wii U. So, as of right now, I'm kind of in a wait and see approach. I don't really understand conceptually where it would fit in my household, but if it's the only way to keep playing exclusive Nintendo games, I'll probably still get it, assuming it's relatively cheap.
There's a couple
also,
of
why
I was gonna say, why won't Nintendo just fucking come out and just announce it at this point? We've been like all these rumors for months now.
I
Like
really
fucking
thought
just
they were
come
gonna
out
show
and
it.
announce it. Like you just do it.
The media spin they've been trying to concoct is that the NX is this next wave of media, you know, like it's something that we don't expect. It's something that's going to blow us all away, which of course we're naturally prone to cynicism against, because that's probably not going to happen, right? That's very unrealistic. So with as much knowledge as we've garnered here, I'm pretty damn sure that we are, you know, confirmed in that suspicion. But there's a couple of other facets to this that very well could serve to further hinder our optimism for this. The first of which being that this will only use game cartridges as their choice of physical media. No more discs. It's going to be back to those good old-fashioned GBA and SNES days of big, fat, gray boxes you blow into.
Don't think they'll be big, fat, gray boxes. It'll end up being, I mean, with technology, they're going to be faster than CDs anyway.
Well,
so
That's
You
probably
said
true, yeah.
Matthew said that'll be fine. Why is that fine? Like this
Because
is like
it'll be
taking
faster.
a step, but it's taking a step backward.
no, it's
like-
not.
Using
No,
a cartridge is not taking a step backward.
No,
taking a
because
step
it's not
backward
going to
to
be an
take a step
actual
forward.
cartridge. It's going to be like a flash drive, Dan.
But still, how is that relevant in today's world where everything
Because
is now?
it loads faster. Like it's an actual faster medium than a CD.
Yeah, but who's going to go to Walmart and buy one of those?
The same people that go to Walmart and buy a game on a PS4, Dan.
I know, but do a lot of people do that now? I mean,
It'll be the same thing.
Well, that's a
It'll be the
different
same
question,
thing.
though. You're not asking, is the cartridge better than the CD? You're
They'll
asking,
also-
does
they'll
anyone go to the
also-
store anymore?
They'll also offer them online on an online store to download it, just like they have been. I mean, you'll have both options.
yeah, but what are they? Let me ask this: why are they trying to go cartridge and not disc? Like, are they trying to like?
That's
'Cause
the
it's
valid question. Yeah.
Faster? Because it's faster. It's just faster.
Yeah.
Technology says it is faster than a CD.
so you
It is
think
a
that's why
faster
Nintendo's
medium.
doing it for that reason?
I
for
assume that's one of the
performance?
reasons. I'm assuming it's a big reason.
It's probably some stuff we don't know about it.
I will not go to a store and go, well, do I want a CD or like, do I really want this flash drive? I'm just gonna buy the game in whatever physical medium it comes on. I end up having.
I will say Nintendo better market this well, because you have a lot of Wii U owners like myself who feel a bit shafted, you know, after buying a Wii U. Like I bought one 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, and it's just sitting in a bag, unplugged, just not even there.
That was my
And
Xbox One story for a little while, too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just, not only has there not been games recently, there really has never been games for the Wii U. They kind of just gave up so early on it. You know, are they going to give up on the NX? Like, I don't really trust Nintendo at this point. I think a lot of people are in the same boat where it's like, are you going to focus on this console? Are you going to release games for this console? Or are you just going to throw the console out there and see what sticks, right? Like, that's what I felt like they did with the Wii U.
It's
So-
an interesting situation you're in. I agree in that the support, obviously, from both. We're going to talk about, of course, the Xbox One in a little bit here with Microsoft's story, but Microsoft and Nintendo both have very obviously began to pull back support for their previous generation of consoles, which was not that long ago. We're talking like 4 or 5 years ago, max, for these consoles, and we're seeing like a very quick sort of 0.5 generation that's coming around with the NX and with the Scorpio, and they're both trying to still compete with the PS4, which is clearly outselling both of them by wide margins still, because not only do we not have numbers from Microsoft about Xbox One sales, but the last numbers we got are significantly lower than that of Sony's. So I think you're onto something here in that we're kind of just in the midst already of this 0.5 console generation coming around that is going to sort of just slow to a halt and then ultimately kill off support for those previous generations. It's a little scary now that I consider it that way, because we may be, establishing a precedent that we are going to be cycling through consoles a lot more quickly here. It could be like a 3 to 4 year console cycle at this point if we're willing to go so quickly from hardware to hardware,
Yeah. And I hope they don't think Zelda's going to sell NXs, because like you guys said, Zelda, a lot of people are going to play that on the Wii U. So
Yeah.
because they want to make their 6-game library a 7-game library, I guess. But
I have I'm having a flash forward to like 5 years from now, we're having like this exact conversation. Nintendo's just announced like, you know, the big N, their next home console.
It's
More
literally
like
just a big N. Like,
I hope it's better
physical
than the
thing.
NX because I only have like Zelda and 5 Mario games on my NX, but I really think they're gonna get it this time.
Yeah, so we'll see. Again, this is another one of those NX stories that ends with "we'll see." I guess we do have a lot more actual information this time around. So,
Hey,
unfortunately,
Mathis, what you drinking?
That's at the end. We do food at the beginning, drink at the end.
he's just totally smashed by the end of 2 hours here. All right, let's turn on a dime here and start talking about Star Citizen. Dan, I kind of just want you to run down for me what's actually transpired here in this story,
Yes.
if you could.
Dan's biased. He's an investor in this game with the amount of money.
So I do have to disclose one thing. So a long time ago they did a produced show that they hired me to just come on and do on-air stuff. And self-admittedly, I'm a fanboy for this game. So you're not going to get a ton of objective stuff from me. However, I think it's going to bring up an interesting conversation with you guys to see how you guys feel on this. But long story short, Star Citizen is a online space sim that is the most has raised the most money ever from a crowdfunding situation. They're now over 117 million, and they started the campaign back in October 2012, and so now we're in July 2016, and about 3 weeks ago, someone tried to get a refund, and they had backed the game for $2,500 4 years ago. And they got into a little battle with CIG, who Cloud Imperium Games, who's the producer of the game and developer of the game. And they're like, no, we'll give you a partial refund. And so they went through the court. They went through the court in California, and they forced CIG to refund them the full $2,500. So the question really is to you guys, that I thought this would be interesting, is, okay, so you back a game 4 years ago, and it's not done yet. There's a lot of progress. You can watch the whole development cycle. But at what point, when you crowdfund a game, are you not entitled to your refund, or are you ever entitled to your refund? Because I really think that's the story with this. What do you guys think?
I tend to be I'm the anti-consumer on the show. That's the role that I play, is the guy who hates the common man and supports exclusively big business. I think that, once you're like pot committed to the game, that's pretty much it. I will say that I think it makes sense from a precedent standpoint. If you have like 2 hours in the game and you're like, this isn't really for me, maybe you should be able to refund it. Maybe there should be like a mechanism in place for that. But if it's been 4 years, I sort of don't feel like the amount of money that you pledge to it really matters, unless you're like a genuine investor in the project and they've like violated the terms of the contract or something. Like, what's the difference between somebody who spends $2,500 to back it and somebody who spends $50 to back it if they don't like it? Like,
So everybody who backed Mighty Number 9 should get a refund.
right, because it's bad.
Yeah.
Not what they thought it would be.
That's a different website, man. What version of Kickstarter exists out there where you only pay if you get the exact guaranteed product that you were promised from the beginning?
So was the guy like he just wanted the refund because the game wasn't finished, or was there a specific reason or something that wasn't met?
So he did it. I listened. He did an interview on a Twitch stream, and he said the reason why he wanted the refund was not because of the game, but because he didn't like the direction that the company was going with the game. So it was more about how the company was being handled than the actual game. So for me, my initial thought, I don't want to say I'm, anti-consumer, but, what other arena of life can you buy something or put money towards something and 4 years later say, hey, I want my back, after having been able to have access to it for 4 years? So, and I know the criticism against Star Citizen is that it's not done yet. So what is done? You can, there's a few modules that are done where you can play in an online universe. There's dogfighting, but it's clearly not to where everyone thought it would be at this point. However, it's a $115 million endeavor. It's not going to go away, in my opinion. I just found this kind of a little bit trolly as to how much publicity this got, given the circumstance of, when this guy backed and the reason he pulled out. But I don't know. I mean, have you guys, let me ask you this. Have you guys backed any games? What games have you backed that maybe that wasn't as successful as you guys may have thought, or what you thought you were getting into?
I got a good one.
Yeah.
I put $20 toward Bear Simulator back in the day. And that one, I'll be totally honest. That one was basically by obligation. I saw that pop up, and I was like, I can't, sleep at night knowing that this game could exist with my help. So yeah, I had to do it, and that was disappointing. I'm not gonna spend any more time than I need to taking a dump all over Bear Simulator, but I didn't really get what I expected there, and my expectations weren't high. I'll be real with you. I didn't know what I was getting into. But I mean, I can't really tell you even how I feel about it financially. Like, I almost didn't even consider that, either at the time of my pledge or while I was playing the game. I never really thought to myself, you know what, I need my $20 back. This was not what I was looking forward to. And this, I mean, I think it's going to be an entirely different situation when you're talking about $20 compared to $2,500, because it's just inherently there's so much more at play there, to where I don't think I can even necessarily make a fair comparison between my experience and this guy's experience. But is it though, like, what if you put $2,500 towards Bear Simulator? Like, that's your choice. Well, I mean, let's go with that hypothetical then. I don't know, like, if I put $2,500 toward Bear Simulator, A, I would be divorced, and then B, it would be like, I would probably have been following it for years. I would be on top of the development probably, like, pretty constantly. I would be, looking for every little sign of hiccups or problems, which I'm sure this guy was doing too. And as he mentioned, he said that he was more concerned about the direction the company was going, which is a little bit vague, but also just indicates to me that he sort of is looking at this from the position of an investor instead of from the position of someone who is contributing to a Kickstarter. He seems to be very determined that he has, like, a hold in this company. Like, he made a piece of this pie, and now he wants that piece back. But I don't know. It's like, where do you decide that you've pledged, or where do you decide that you're investing? And I think, for me, I'd say Kickstarter, you just got to assume that your money's gone.
We should get Malf on here to talk about Goddess or Goddess.
Yeah,
another fucking
definitely
disastrous Kickstarter.
Ryan and Mathis and Austin, have you guys backed a game that didn't come out or wasn't what you thought, and how did you guys feel about it?
I don't think I've backed a game before, actually.
I've backed 2 games, and they're basically what I exactly was hoping
Which ones
for.
did you do?
I've backed FTL, and I've backed Darkest Dungeon.
Those are two good ones.
choices.
I was stingy with what I want to back on Kickstarter, because Kickstarters or any crowdfunding is unless there is, like, physical evidence of what this game is going to be, or there's, like, a known prestige with the developers. I don't want to put my money into anything that I don't think is going to be at least of a mediocre or better level.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna back Yooka-Laylee. The reason I didn't is because I forgot, honestly. But I would have backed it, and had I backed it, and had it sucked, it's not out yet. But if it were to suck, I don't think I'd expect my money back in that situation, or even think that I could get my money back. I'm agreeing with you guys for sure.
Ryan, have you ever backed anything?
I backed Boss Fight books, which was the they made the Shadow of the Colossus book and the Spelunky book, but I haven't even, like, they emailed me to be like, hey, what reward do you want? And I just, like, I'll get to that. That was like 18 months ago. And now, like, the Spelunky book, which is the one I wanted, just showed up in, like, not a Humble Bundle, but, like, kind of an analog of the Humble Bundle. I was like, maybe I'll just buy it for, like, $1. I already paid for it, so. But I guess, like, where I come, the only part of me that agrees with him, and obviously I guess the court agreed as well, but is, if you back a project for $2,500, is the expectation, or is the spirit of the backing, that you're buying a finished product eventually? Like, I am not paying $2,500 for version, A.014 of Star Citizen. I have the privilege of playing that build, but really I'm pledging $2,500 to play version 1.0 whenever that comes out. And if you do believe in his spirit, that's the spirit of the pledge, then I guess he is within his rights to be like, I don't like where this is going. I want my money back. It's almost like a pre-order.
I was gonna say it's like canceling a pre-order that you
Yeah,
can do at any time at GameStop.
But as much as I say that, I do agree with Mathis, where I think like there is a tendency, and especially this was like the golden age of Kickstarter, where like if anything was novel, you're like, $50, $100,
Yeah.
$20, right? But you have this tendency to think that you're like a business person who pledged some money to this project, and you're like a Dragon's Den style investor or something like that. When in actuality, you're just like you're basically a whale. Not to be rude necessarily, but
For people who have no idea what Dragon's Den is, that's Canada's version of Shark Tank. Sorry.
correct.
That existed way before Shark Tank.
Also correct.
So,
But
I'm wondering then, like, as far as this is concerned, this guy, he gets $3,000 or so back because he felt that Star Citizen and the business that was creating it were not going the direction that he felt they should be. So, what happens then with the Kickstarter projects that are successfully funded and then never actually come to fruition? Where are we drawing the line there? Does everyone that pledged to that project deserve a refund?
Well, I think the problem is, when someone asks for a refund, there's no game, right? This money's already been spent or is in the process of being spent towards development. So when they take that back, it's almost like
going into the
reneging
red.
on a contract. Yeah, it's like it puts the development team, at a bad spot. I think, and like Ryan said, this was back in 2012, right? So that's when, I was backing a ton of stuff just because it's like, oh, this was from my childhood. And a lot of that stuff hasn't even come out yet or, went belly up. But I just kind of looked at it as like, hey, if it's made, cool. If not, I guess it's gone.
But that is, like, you got to admit, is just a very passive approach, which most likely not everyone is going to employ, right? Especially those who pledged at higher tiers for some of these games.
Well, I'll give you an example. I won't tell you how much because it's a little embarrassing, but just call it X00. I backed a game in 2012. It's
one?
from the makers of Space Quest. So they made Space Quest back in the day. There was a adventure game that used to type. I learned how to type as a kid playing Space Quest. And so they came out and they had a campaign called Space Venture, and it's like a spin-off, and they're doing another space adventure game. And I put a couple $100 into it, and it was supposed to be out in February of 2013, and it's not out yet. But I'm not salty, but I'm watching it, and I'm hoping that it comes out. But I don't expect at this point. I don't expect it to.
Two Guys Space Venture.
Yeah.
By the creators of the Space Quest series? Okay.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is I contributed to that, I guess not because I'm expecting a great game, but I guess it was kind of paying it back. They taught me how to type.
Yeah.
And so I think, a lot of people during that time may have been able to capitalize on that nostalgia or feeling of, not that you owe them, but you wanted to thank them. And,
Sure.
But the game still hasn't come out yet, I guess is the point. So I guess that's the only time I'm a little bit salty, but I'm not sure that even answers your question.
I think, we're almost getting into legal territory that we're probably not qualified to speak of.
Yeah.
But crowdfunding is kind of an interesting and novel situation. But I feel like, for me personally, what would feel right is if the product does not come out at all, and the investigation confirms that there was not an honest effort made, which I guess is the gray area. Then I think you're within your bounds. If something comes out and it's within the spirit of the original product, even if it's not absolutely 100% what was pitched, then I think tough luck basically, because that's just you're not building a house. It's a piece of software where throughout development, things are going to change, especially if it's going to be Star Citizen has been in development for 5 years now. You're talking about this was pitched back in 2010 or 2011. Think of how much the industry has changed since then. Obviously you're shooting at a moving target, so it's going to be hard to get everything that was originally promised in the architecture to begin with. But
right.
I feel it's as long, because there's Kickstarter situations where it was our artist ran away with 30 grand, so we can't make the project anymore. That I think there should be legal recourse for getting your money back. But something like Star Citizen, I feel like if this dude pledged $50 to Star Citizen and he wanted a refund, we'd be go shove it up your butt. But because it's $2,500, does that actually change the reaction that I feel I should have? I don't necessarily think so. I feel live and let live, or like take it as a learning experience, I guess. But
It's tough to say.
The end.
Yeah.
The end. There is another one on Kickstarter that is the son told me to stop making the game. I forgot about that one.
Oh wow.
What?
I mean, I don't want to go too far into it because I think there may be some like mental illness issues there. But the developer was like, I had a conversation with like the sun goddess, and she doesn't want me.
Oh,
to
I
make
thought
the
you meant like his actual sun,
Yeah,
not like
I-
the
yeah.
celestial body in the sky. Oh, okay.
the closest star to
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah, a little worse. A little worse.
Wow, that's
And in
much
that
different.
case, you have sympathy, but you're also like, I think I'd like my money back, please.
Yeah. I don't think the sun needs my $25, right? Two guys
The
from
other
Andromeda Space Venture got an update back in May, by the way, Dan. Just so you know, they're working on it.
I tweeted them like, hey, when's the release date? And they said, hey, it's coming out, and I believe them. I think it'll come out.
Yeah, sure.
But it is what it is. I really don't have any regrets about making the pledge until I think about how much it was. But that's not the reason why I pledged in the first place, I guess.
Right? Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Then the other thing is that I feel like we were so like naive back then.
Yeah.
We had like no idea. Kickstarter, if nothing else, has done a really good job of teaching everybody, myself included, of being like skeptical of game development and be like, hey, like here's our super ambitious pitch. We're three guys who used to work at a AAA studio, and our game is going to be out in like 6 months. And then we're here and we're like, I'm thinking of stuff that I've done videos for, like Aegis Defenders has not come out yet. I did a video for that when I was living in my old place, so that's at least like 2 years ago. Remember Anne? ANNE?
That co-op platformer puzzle thingy.
Yeah, it was a Metroidvania where also
Yeah.
there was like a robot that you could control. And then like that was, I think the Kickstarter for that was in March of 2013. And it's like a one-man project and it's still not out. So I think now, like, for a Kickstarter project to really grab me is not possible. There's no pitch that can sell me on a Kickstarter project at this point.
Since the golden age of Kickstarter, developers have learned to not overpromise.
Yeah.
Because that was a big problem, and I'm not saying Star Citizen not come out, but that's a huge Star Citizen problem. Was the over-promising of like release dates and their features, and then as time went on, all the new features they were going to put in, and then still saying it's going to be out by a certain time, and then missing those deadlines. I think developers learned to kind of like bite their tongue on like, this is definitely going to be out, and this is definitely what it's going to be like in 2 years. And then 4 years go by, and like, where's our game?
Along that same vein, I think like the overall quality of Kickstarters have improved as well over the course of the last 3 years or so. Like, we're not seeing. Well, this was always sort of a closet fear that a lot of people had, where someone's going to say, like, hey, we're making the next Super Mario, and here's some images of Super Mario, so you can remember what that looks like. Give us $750,000, and then they just leave. But that's like, it's impossible these days. Like, I think the standard has been set where you need like nearly a demo of the completed product, Like, you got to be pretty far along, at least in the concept of what you're doing or what you want to do, before people will begin to take you seriously and actually pledge to the project. So I'm kind of glad it's gone that route too.
Well, just to lightly combat Mathis, if you look at the early release of the playable release of Star Citizen in 2013 versus what's available now, it's like leaps and bounds. It's almost, when you see the game now and it's not even done visually, it's some of the best graphics and
well, yeah, I'm not saying
things
that,
I've ever seen.
I'm not gonna. The artists are very talented and they're smart in using the Cry engine because it's a very beautiful engine. But they've missed almost every fucking deadline, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they've promised X module is gonna be playable by X, and then it's like 6 months late, and people get pissed. And yeah, it comes out, and yeah, they can play the module now. But it's just developers not just over promising what's gonna be in the game, but promising deadlines. A personal game that I love, that has overpromised over and over and over again as far as deadlines is concerned, is Project Zomboid. How long has that game been? And that game still gets updates every 2 weeks, like major updates. It's still in development. Like, it's not a dead game by any stretch. But they have stopped saying this is when the game's going to come out because they've missed almost every one of their deadlines in the process. Like, developers have learned at least to stop being like, X day is the game. This is going to be ready.
Just to like fanboy defense, of Star Citizen. What they're doing and what they're planning to do has never been done before, and I think what I to end my Star Citizen fanboyism is Chris Roberts. He's done a lot of things with life. He's been very successful, and I think he's the type of person that isn't going to let this thing fail. It may take a little bit longer, may cost more money, but I just think it's going to be something, and this is where I could see NL getting cynical about it. I think this is going to be something that is going to be the next big thing, like the next big game. I see this personally as the same type of draw as a World of Warcraft. It's going to be something new that people haven't experienced on a different level. However, that being said, I can see how people are cynical given the missed, release dates and things like that. However, if you see how far the game's come and how many people are working on this, I think you may be, I don't want to say foolish to think that it's not going to come out. They have 200 plus people working on this game. It's not just going to evaporate overnight.
I mean, if anything, maybe surprisingly, I'm less cynical about something like Star Citizen that is, like a over $100 million project with a staff, like a huge staff working on it and like constant updates. I'm way less cynical of that than I am of like, I'm one dude, give me $20,000 to make a spiritual successor to like this game that you love from your childhood. Like that stuff I'm super cynical of. But with, I mean, like you said, it's a huge project. Like this, from a game development standpoint, I can't even imagine having $120 million and a staff of 200 people, and then to have to deliver something that's worth $120 million. Because it's not, people aren't just going to look at it and be like, is this worth $60 if they're going to buy it? They're going to be like, was this worth being the biggest project ever?
Well, hold on, just to make a comparison real quick there, I just want to let people know like just how much money that is. So the budget of about $120 million, crowdfunded, which is also insane. Let's look at some comparisons here. So Destiny from 2014, one of the biggest gaming releases in modern memory, budget of $140 million. So pretty damn close to that. Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar 2013.
GTA 5 was like 110, right?
Yeah, 137 for development cost. Star Citizen's actually up here on the list at like number 4 overall for game budgets. And then you got Max Payne 3 down there with 105 mil. Too Human apparently had a budget of $100 million. That's very surprising. It helps when
the game takes 35 years to come out.
Yeah, that was a game that was announced for the GameCube.
Jesus. The canceled Halo MMO had a budget of $90 million. God damn.
Didn't that all go to Destiny, though? Isn't that?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure a lot of those assets went to Destiny. Sorry, Mathis, go ahead.
You actually made the exact point I was going to say. I said, like, compare Star Citizens to other big-budget games. I know, I would say GTA 5 had a very similar budget, and look what they were able to accomplish on that budget. Is what Star Citizen trying to accomplish, is that enough money? Because they're trying to change the face, basically, of what a space sim can be, a multiplayer space sim can be. And if those are the games that budget can accomplish with producers breathing down your neck, is this going to be enough to accomplish what they want to accomplish, or do they need like double?
Also keep in mind that Destiny's development cost was $140, but their actual total cost was $500 million.
Yeah.
Whew, Jesus Christ.
That's ridiculous.
there is one
$500 million.
$500 million, yeah.
Oh God.
There is one thing I need to add though, and it's a little bit confusing to understand. Is with that 100 and right now 17 million, they're also making a single player, like standalone game called Squadron 42. That think of it as like Wing Commander, and they've hired like Mark Hamill and Gillian Anderson. So there's
like 40 mil of the budget right there. Jesus.
Yeah, they're stretching the money a long way. But it's a massive undertaking, and we'll see where it's at a year from now.
Yeah.
Say what you will about like the Blizzard strat, but when people do that, where they just don't tell you when things are coming out, whenever they do eventually give you a date, that's when this product's coming out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies that are kind of going that way, where there's like, it's gonna be done whenever it's done. I'm not gonna give you a date until like a month before.
I kind of prefer that too.
It's frustrating, but it's locked in. You know it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about Microsoft for a bit. Microsoft just announced another price cut to the Xbox One. We were teasing about this a little bit earlier, but the price of the actual black brick console that will be obsolete in about 6 months here is now $249. So there's your barrier to entry removed, maybe, for a few people. The 500 gigabyte version of the Xbox One, now $249. There's still the bundles, of course, that I believe are going to be $249 and $299, depending on the bundle that you pick up, with things such as Gears of War Ultimate Edition, Quantum Break, Rise of the Tomb Raider, all that good stuff. So, this is, as I mentioned before, this is sort of like, okay, we are phasing this out effectively. This, I believe, is like the third price drop this year, I want to say, if not like even more recently than that. They had one, I'm pretty sure, like 1 or 2 months ago, down to $299, and now they're dropping all the way down to $250. So this is, I don't know if there's any clearer writing on the wall you can put, but the Xbox One is going to be gone. It's not going to be produced anymore within the next year or so. That's almost a guarantee.
Here's my take on it. Microsoft is conceding this generation effectively.
Yes.
But they're taking, like, they're finishing on a subquest or something like that, which is going to be to emphasize the integration of PC and whatever you'd like to call the console space, you know, physical hardware. The integration of those two with Windows 10. So I really feel like the Xbox One is moving away, in my opinion, from being a standard video game console the way we think of it right now, and more almost like a Steam box that just exists to play Windows 10 UWPs on your TV.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure.
I think it's basically, at this point, they're treating it as like an extension of the Windows 10 brand, and it's like, it's a smart box, basically, I guess is where I'm coming at it from. And I think that's a little scary in the sense that I don't want... It's scary that what we're going to be playing games and doing like all our recording and like our OS is going to be a platform for video games. Like that kind of frightens me a little bit that Microsoft might have that level of power. But I also think it has kind of cool implications that maybe the Windows 10 PC and Xbox One could be unified platforms, which would be neat. But I don't know. At this point, I guess it's a wait and see.
Are they going to succeed in that Steambox model? Because Steambox
Isn't.
kind of doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's more Valve's fault or just the market's fault, but I don't see that working. You know, you're going to have a lot of people who are already, you know, moving over to Sony, and the people who already have PCs are not going to buy these. So who's going to buy these? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, man. I don't even think this is meant to necessarily drive people to buy the Xbox One. I think this is clearing out inventory, you know? This is, let's get rid of all these old Xboxes on store shelves for as much profit as we can possibly muster at this point. They want to get rid of these things effectively to make way for the brand new fancy 40% smaller box. I mean, it's sort of shitty, but that's the reality we're presented with now. The Xbox One is not cutting it. It's not selling well enough to compete directly with Sony, so they're clearly having to completely change up the formula. They had to change up the formula already. Like, they had already failed and then tried to change by the removal of the Kinect integration. Like, that already happened and didn't work. So they're going to phase 2 here. That's at least how I interpret it.
Yeah, I think in anything, you know, VHS versus Betamax, there's a clear winner. HD, DVD, and Blu-ray. There's a clear winner. And if you ever question who the clear winner is between PS4 and Xbox One, it's not really a question anymore. And, you know, I kind of pride myself on, normally I'm on the, like, winning side of that equation. And this one, I'm not. And I know it, and it kind of stinks because I see all my friends, like, they have PS4s, and I'm like, but I'm, like, pot committed to Xbox One. And I just don't know when this is going to end. And you know, to kind of piggyback of what Ryan's saying, is what's the next Xbox console even going to be? You know, is it just going to be another glorified PC that doesn't differentiate itself in, you know, any unique way? I don't know. But it's kind of like, it's kind of scary from that standpoint, is like, what's the next console? What can they even bring to the table?
I know people have been saying this for years and years and years, but I'm going to bring it up again, I guess. Are we finally seeing that end of, you know, console gaming as we know it? Like, is it finally tapering off, or is this just a misstep in that?
See, I think we're very biased because you're talking to
Yeah.
99% of our time we play on PCs.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, a wide range of people, and young kids and older people, casual gamers, that, you know, look at a PC and are like, I don't play games on this, you know? I don't know. But it's an interesting question. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The
definitely.
death of consoles.
Mathis, you've been weirdly quiet. I just want to point that out.
What you thinking, Mathis?
Mathis, what you think?
I don't care about the Xbox, and I won't buy one.
Yeah, fair enough.
I barely touch my PS4. I barely touch my Wii U. I have no reason to care about consoles.
But
Halo work yet?
the overall implication here, though, man, that's what's at stake. The PC gamers are taking over. The consoles are no more.
I hope PC gaming is taking over.
I think it's
But-
always like
It's growing, but I don't know if
we're
it's taking
clinging to like this old idea that the consoles are still hanging in there, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, the only reason that I talk about like the PS4 on the show is to talk about it selling really well. So like that's fine. It means that people are buying it, but from like an actual gameplay perspective, you know, well, as Dan said, we are biased, but as Matt has said, I don't use my console at all. Like, the only reason that I would use the PS4 at this point is for, you know, the maybe 6 exclusive games that come out annually for it that
Netflix.
I don't have access to. Yeah, Netflix, exactly.
They don't
But-
have Netflix in Canada. It's called Cool Movies.
Cool Movies Incorporated. Patent pending.
Yeah, but like there's a big difference like with consoles now. Like before, when you I used to be a mainly console gamer. I only started playing PC games roughly like 4 years ago or something. So I'm still rather new in a way. But in the past, you know, when you go talk to your friends, you're like, oh, you know, what are you playing? You're like, oh, I'm playing. I rented this from Blockbuster. You know, I'm playing this game today. They always seem to have new games. When I ask my friends, you know, specific, sometimes like my brother, he's a console gamer. What are you playing? Their answer is always, oh, I'm playing Destiny. I'm playing Madden, playing Destiny. Oh yeah, I'm playing Destiny. It's like they're all playing the same
They're all
games.
playing Destiny.
They're all playing the same like 3 or
That
4
$500
games.
million
No
was
one's
well
playing
spent.
anything different. Like
They could be playing Star Citizen if they came over to
That's
PC.
right. Yeah.
And glorious 21 frames per second.
Wow.
But to be fair, you know, like we have $1,000 PCs and up,
Yeah.
like because we need them for recording as well. But I guess a lot of people out there, you know, probably have just like a laptop or something, and they're like, hey, you know, we're gonna need like a tablet for school or a laptop for school, so you can't really play like The Witcher 3 on that. So I can understand that we maybe just are completely missed as the target audience by console manufacturers now.
Yeah, I think we're very clearly being speculative as far as the idea of consoles are dying. What? But no, it's.
Why doesn't every 10-year-old just have a $2,000 PC? Like,
Like 40 million PS4s have been sold over the course of this generation of consoles, so you know it's not going anywhere yet. But I don't disagree that we're going in that direction. Just based on what we see here, like there's so little left to offer from the idea of the home console that unless we see that sort of huge revolution of thinking that none of us could even conceive of right now, then
portable.
yeah, there you go.
Done.
Just nailed
The
it.
NX. The NXs.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
but just to piggyback off that a little
Sure.
bit, I sort of feel like when it comes to mobile gaming, I have no interest in like games that are the quality of PC games on my phone. Like I actually, if I'm gonna sit down and play like RimWorld, that's a bad example because from a UI standpoint, it's gonna look pretty horrible on a phone screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I could like, I mean that's another bad example. I feel like because of controls. Like I
And it
feel like
runs horrendously on 3DS.
but even if it ran like amazingly, I kind of feel like stuff like Pokemon Go is like my platonic ideal for what mobile games should be. It takes like unique advantage of the hardware, and at least from like a user experience standpoint, it's not just like a PC game that's put in an inferior format. As much as I'm cynical about it, like it does something unique to the platform. I have no interest in taking like Crusader Kings 2 on the go with me or something like
Really?
that.
You don't want to run a Irish Duchy from the palm of your hand?
Exactly. Like on the airplane, be like,
I just want to take a moment to appreciate that we now have the out-of-context quote from Ryan Latorno. Pokemon Go is the ideal mobile experience.
I think it represents. I don't even take that offensively out of context. I think stuff like that is. It's like Wii Sports. Is like Wii Sports is not the perfect game, but it's the perfect game for the Wii. Like it couldn't exist on any other console, and it was done well. Like I feel the same way about Pokemon Go to some extent. So I don't I don't feel like when I go out, if I'm on like the bus or the subway or something, like, man, I wish I could play The Witcher 3 right now. Like, that's just, I don't think it's built for that, for me personally, at least.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Like, I don't play a ton of mobile games, but the very few I do have like a 1 or 2 mechanic deal to it. You know, like in Pokemon, you walk around, you click if you find it, and you try to capture. That's it. You know, but I know there's a lot of people that get into, you know, more in-depth mobile games, but I just don't look at it like that way either. It's if I'm playing something, it's something to waste like 10 minutes or something of that nature.
Touchscreen's too cumbersome. Like
Also
people
true.
who can master it, like it's still just such a small amount of space. There's so little you can do with it.
I still can't even like reliably type my email address into a phone. There's going to be at least like 2 errors.
Do we all just have like big fat old hands, or is this
Huge
a
hands.
pervasive problem here?
I think it's a pervasive problem, honestly.
They have a big ass phone, so I mean, you'd think I'd be able to do it, but
That's the whole reason phones are getting bigger, is because people get 2 big fat hands to actually operate those tiny little things we had a few years ago.
I have a 3DS XL and I still can't hold it for more than like an hour before my hands start to hurt.
yeah.
Here, actually.
Jesus. All right. Let's shift over to Sonic's 25th anniversary. Hooray!
Anyone catch the stream?
I got
Yes.
a little bit of it. Yeah, that was
So
man.
good.
That was. I thought it was like I swore on my life that it was like a self-aware sort of deal, just because that seemed like what Sonic on the internet has become. You know, just like meme city. And the capacity to be able to put on a show like that and just have it just be like a big goof, you know? But
Didn't it go for like 4 hours?
it went
or
for a
some
real
shit?
long time, man. Yeah, like it was insane. So find a supercut online somewhere of the Sonic 25th anniversary stream if you got time for that. That's a good investment.
There's also like a post-mortem done by one of the guys who was on the production team.
Oh, really?
That explains what happened, and he's basically like, we had like a month to prepare for it, and then on the day, everything just went wrong.
Oh.
So you know, all the tweets from the Peanut Gallery are like, fire the sound guy,
Yeah.
and he's there like, what can you do? Like all of our electronics stopped working on the day of the event, basically. So.
Yeah, we know the joys of live production here at Roundtable Live, man. I'm not gonna hate on anybody for trying to put on a show, but that was a good time. So that's not the news, though. The news is, of course, that Sonic's 25th anniversary will coincide with the release of a new Sonic game, Sonic Mania, which I'm not going to show the trailer for because I'm pretty sure Sega's just going to straight up copyright ID me within a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
But I will tell you that it basically appears to be an HD remake of Sonic 1. Which I am pretty much on board with. And, you know, it's quite literal to that as well. Like, it looks like you made Sonic 1 in the year 2016. And it's pretty great from what I can see thus far. I think I might be like, well, I don't know, how many of you guys, I think we've gone over this before. Like, I grew up with a Sega Genesis. I think we had, Dan is a Nintendo guy, right? And then we had, like, a couple others.
I had
right?
both.
Oh, you had both,
I had
okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have a Genesis growing up?
I only had a Genesis.
You only had a Genesis. Hell yeah. Okay, so you're my Sonic bro then, right? At least
Hell
in
yeah.
the early years. Okay, good.
Yep.
I had a Game Gear, so I played a couple of the Sonic games on that.
Mm-hmm.
For 45 minutes at a time until the battery's dead.
Yeah, or you're getting third-degree burns on your hands.
I have a weird relationship with the Sonic series. I've never played any of the original games,
So
but
do a lot of people.
yeah, and I played Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Adventure 2, I love that game because I played it way too much. But I look back at it and like that game's awful.
Okay, which one
That
is
game's
that, man?
really
I
bad.
swear to God, I cannot like parse the history of Sonic in my head. Okay, Sonic Adventure 2. That was the one with Shadow. That was on the
Yeah.
Dreamcast. Okay.
But I played it on the GameCube because the battle version, the redone version, was on
right.
the GameCube.
Okay.
Did you guys ever feel growing up like Nintendo was for like the good kids and Genesis was for like the edgy,
I was
like
a
the
naughty
mean
kid,
kids?
man. Yeah, I was a rebel.
It was like Toe Jam.
Naughty.
And, they played Toe Jam and Earl, and I played Mario. You know?
No,
That's
I
what it was
played
like.
Toe Jam and Earl, man. Toe Jam and Earl was my shit. I'm so glad they're doing a reboot of that. That's really
Yeah.
exciting. Okay.
Right after we talk about Kickstarter being skeptical of spiritual successors of games of our youth. Can't wait for Toe Jam and Earl.
Hey, it's
rebooted.
different, damn it.
Here's
So
my
what is the remake called? I'm trying
Sonic
to look for it
Mania.
now.
Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bad name for it. Just throwing that out there.
Well, Sonic 4 was taken, unfortunately, by something that was much worse. So what are you going to do, right?
I
So
feel
Sonic
like-
Mania. What can you break down Sonic Mania? What it
Well,
exactly?
I'll break it down for you. It's the newest game for Sonic fans to pile all their hopes and dreams into, and thus start the beginning of the Sonic cycle again, which, of course, as we all know, goes, this looks like it could be good, and then you see footage and you go, I'm not sure this is what we're going for, and then it releases and it's shit, and then they announce a new one, and you go, maybe this time.
I would agree with you, but I actually genuinely believe that this time they listened because
This is like the abusive spouse or something, and we're like, I know
there's no Stockholm syndrome going on here, man. I'm a firm believer.
Times they said they changed.
They
Let me
broke
be
the
the disclaimer
cycle.
for Ryan. We're not trying to make light of any situation.
No,
Yes.
of course
Go ahead.
not. I mean,
Well-
we are talking about video games, which is like the most serious topic.
I was just saying what you were thinking, but you couldn't
Yeah,
speak
I
twice
appreciate
at the same time. No problem.
They broke the cycle though, didn't they? Because they had this weird thing going where they would make all right, this is a good Sonic game, and then they'd go, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, and then good Sonic game, and oh, what? No, please remove this. Because it was like Sonic Colors, which was good. People like Sonic Colors, and then I don't remember what was in between that, but it was something bad. And then Sonic Generations, which I think everyone likes Sonic Generations. It's a pretty good Sonic game. And then they made Sonic Lost World, I think is
Yep.
what it was, and that was awful.
Yeah,
Boom
yeah.
was terrible.
No, but then Boom was announced. Be like, oh, Boom, okay, this is going to be the good one now, right? And it was probably worse than Sonic 06. Sonic 06 is hilarious because it's so bad it's good. Sonic Boom is just it goes off the scale. It's so bad it's even worse. It's just there's nothing redeeming about it.
This is what I don't understand about the gaming ecosystem, and I think it just speaks. Admittedly, I'm somewhat ignorant of the Sonic fandom, so I apologize for that in advance. But I think it speaks to the power of nostalgia and what you played during your formative years as a child. Because if you go and look at a game that is good but hasn't updated in a while and is early access, it's overwhelmingly negative reviews. Did the devs abandon it? This is a shit show. It installs itself in this folder but didn't ask my permission. But then with Sonic, they've released 2 okay to good games in the last 8 years, and then 7 terrible ones, and people are like, I'm on board. I have no cynicism, maybe a little nugget of cynicism, but then I'm on board. They finally did what I wanted them to do. And then for stuff that's actually out and works and is decent, they're like, well, the new update broke it because the block animation takes 0.1 seconds. I'm like, wait, how can both of these people exist and have this duality of opinions on these games? But
There is a group of people who will buy any Sonic game ever that is rather large, and I think they're the ones funding
Big, yes.
the Sonic. What is their game company called? Is it just Sonic Team? I think.
Sega?
Yeah, Sonic Team at this point. Oh, no, wait, hold on. I think it's Pagoda West Games headcanon is apparently developing Sonic Mania, so there's a difference there.
Well, Sonic Team's making the new 3D Sonic.
Okay.
What was it called? Sonic something. They announced it at the end of the stream.
Yeah, it was yeah, no, I'm not gonna be able to remember
Sonic
that now.
Project or some. I think it was a temporary.
They're running
name
out
or
of
something.
names, surnames
Yeah.
for this, dude. It's just gonna have to be the yearly releases again. Get back to Sonic 06 fashion.
I will say there's something to be said. I was watching this trailer without sound, but I could hear the sound in my head. There's something to be said for that kind of nostalgia where you remember the sound, the music without even hearing it. I think it's something special, but
Yeah.
whether it's going to be good or not,
Okay,
I'm sure we'll all buy it.
Let me explain this away because I feel like I've got Sonic Mania was made for me. And let me tell you why. So, I played through Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles. Those were all great. I love those games. I played them recently, in fact. I really enjoyed those games.
when did the last one of those games come out, and was it 19 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
Was it in a different millennium?
Sonic,
Just to-
Sonic and Knuckles came out in 1994 for the Sega
Oh my
Genesis.
Bear, you were 5 years old.
I was, yeah. Well, no, I didn't play it on release, I don't think. I was probably 7 when I played Sonic and Knuckles. But so, those games are great. I played Sonic Adventure. I think I might have played Sonic Adventure 2. I was just sort of like, okay, this isn't for me. Thanks for the fun, Sonic. I'm gonna go find some new games to play now. So then I started to go into my whole PlayStation spat as a child. But I see this now as an aged man, a learned man, and I see them trying to make those 1994 games again, updated for a modern feel, including all the different elements of those 3 games that made those games good, put together in one package. And I'm basing that off of 8 minutes of gameplay that I saw, but this is like the closest thing I've seen by far to anything that's gotten me to have a reinvigorated interest in the Sonic franchise. So I want to give them credit for that, because it does sort of seem like at this point they're finally realizing, oh, there's probably some people that want this to happen. Let's do that.
I just think it's like, you like going to a restaurant. They got a great chef, and then you go there for like 5 years, and then they fire the chef, and then you're like, I don't really like this, and they fire the chef, and you're like, I don't really like this. At some point, you got to be like, I'm not going back to that restaurant. But instead, every time they're like, we hired a new chef, you're like, maybe this restaurant is going to recapture the magic, which is, I think is totally fine the first couple of times. But we're pretty deep in the Sonic like lifespan right here.
Yeah, but they fired that chef. They brought in like 12 different chefs to see if anybody could recreate the magic of that chef. They decided, you know what, fuck it, let's just bring that old guy back. And
but did they bring that old guy back, or did they just say like, we hired a guy that's like this old guy we used to have?
It's like the son of that old guy.
Yeah,
It follows his recipes, but may not have the accoutrement to like put the
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Lost this metaphor.
That's a chance you got to take, though, right?
Yeah, I don't think you have to take it at all. If the Sonic Mania ends up being amazing, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you go, grand opening of the restaurant, June 21st. I got to mark that on my calendar. Like that's appointment television right there. I think you wait, and if it comes out and people are like, hey, I know you're not gonna believe this, but it's pretty good, then you go, oh, that's awesome. But to see people getting excited about Sonic. I am like 3 cycles deep in being cynical about people being excited about Sonic. That's how long it's gone on. At first I was like, why are people excited about Sonic? And then it was like, oh, people are excited about Sonic again. And now I'm just at like acceptance.
Yeah.
That this
That's
is going
the
to
first
happen.
stage.
Always be excited about Sonic.
I'll tell you,
entire
though,
conversation.
if the grand opening of that restaurant is anything like the Sonic 25th anniversary stream, then I am attending, because that's going to be a good time.
But I have to ask you, I'm watching this trailer, and it looks like it's the Sega Genesis version.
It does.
There's nothing. There's nothing different.
Oh, there's differences. If you've like played all 3 games, you'll see that you can do things in this game that were not in Sonic 1. So like it is still though, like that's I want to make very clear that
Like what? Run
I can
fast?
tell you. Did you see the fire shield? Wasn't in there till
different,
Sonic 3,
God
man.
damn it.
You can fire dash, you can ground dash in this new Sonic Mania. You couldn't do that shit in Sonic 1. It's all
did they
fancy and new.
Did they just take the assets off the original Genesis cartridge and just port
Like
it to
you
PC?
see Green Hill Zone, right? And you're looking at that, and it looks like the exact same thing. They've made slight tweaks to that, but like
Slight tweaks.
all right, man, I'm not fighting it. Green Hill Zone is a copy paste. That's fine. I don't even care. I'm thinking to myself, I want to play more of those zones with more of that fantastic fucking early '90s Sega awesome music that they've got, man. Like that shit's golden.
Dude.
You know what it is? It's like Mario is Tony Hawk, and then Sonic is like Christian Stance. Christian Stance was like an 80s skateboarder. He invented the Christ Air. They had like a rivalry for 4 years. Tony Hawk, goes to the X Games, becomes a multimillionaire, media mogul. Christian Stance fell on hard times, got involved in drugs, went to prison for a while.
Made Sonic 06.
Tony Hawk has just been sort of like doing his job for like 25 years. And then Christian Stance is still trying to recapture that old magic. And everyone's going, he's going to be at the Vans store today. Maybe he'll pull some sick Flatland tricks. But in the back of your head, you're like, he's just signing autographs. He's just getting the appearance fee.
Ryan, did you used to be a skater back in the day?
Like very, very minimally.
Ooh.
Enough to know who Christian Stance is.
I
Yeah,
actually
I don't
just
know
learned who Christian Stance was like 4 days ago because I listened to Heaven is a Half Pipe by OPP, which is just awful. And then I was like, I bet this song is a Wikipedia article, and it did. And then they talked about Christian Stance, and then I clicked on Christian Stance, and it was like he invented the Christ Air. Not Christian Stance, Christian Hosoi. Christian Stance is the guy from the Edmund McMillan and Tommy Refn prank call on the dude who's trying to make a movie about Superboy.
Mr. Holzoy. Throughout this entire Sonic conversation, I've just had "Escape from the City" playing in the background in my head. Like, that just happens from
That's
now.
good.
The game's got a hold on me for some reason.
Oh man,
Oh, it's
You're
not by
not-
OPP, it's by OPM, by the way.
Dan, you're not at all excited for Sonic Mania?
I am. But when you said remastered, I thought it was gonna have a little like shake and bake on it. But I am at 329 in the trailer on the Polygon gameplay,
Uh-huh.
and I did see the words egg TV and eggnog, so I'm sold. at
Okay,
this
there
point.
you go. Yeah, you only needed a little bit of a push, right?
Yes.
Well, Mathis, then, how do you feel about it? Because I know you're.
I
you're
don't care about
You don't care
Sonic.
about Sonic Mania. All right, that's fair.
It's like Sonic. Oh man, he's just not as classic as like a lot of the other guys. Like he was fun when I was like I enjoyed playing Sonic when I was a kid, but
Have you
When I got
tried?
older,
Have you tried
there.
like Sonic 1, Sonic 2 recently? They hold up, man.
I'm sure they do. I don't doubt it, but
I will say once Sonic started to appear in Nintendo games, to me, that's when I'm like, he just lost all his street cred. You know, like seriously, I can't.
Fucking
sold out.
sell out, unbelievable.
But I still like him, but it's just he's not the same guy. He was like the anti-Mario, and now he's like, hey, having a glass of lemonade next to Mario. It just doesn't work like that.
What I don't understand is when I see like a 12-year-old who's really into Sonic, and I'm like, you don't even have the connection to the classics. How does Sonic have any appeal to someone who's like under the age of 18? You know, whenever Sonic Adventure came out and was like formative.
Yeah. It was,
Like,
He's the mean guy.
That's all marketing. Yeah, maybe they just got super. There's been Sonic memes longer than some of these kids have been alive.
I love. This is a little unrelated, but I love now that there's like people who are realizing who Slowpoke is from memes that didn't know who that was before. It's that generation of revelations via internet images that's just really enjoyable to me. All right. Well, Sonic Mania. It's all kinds of good fun. I'm sort of looking forward to it, but I could also just go back and play Sonic and Knuckles and enjoy that. And
It's okay that you're fired up about it. I love that you're fired up about it. I think a lot of people
it's
can
rare
relate
for
to
me
it.
to be fired up about something,
Yeah.
man.
It's that
Sonic and Halo.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's just remake a game that was good from 16 years ago.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Bear will be your champion forever.
I bought every goddamn version of that game I can find. Okay. Sonic 25th. Let me move into Telltale. So, this is a bit of buzzkill news, unfortunately, here, if you heard this story a few days ago. Telltale's multiplayer feature was announced, which initially sounded like a way for people to basically play those Telltale, essentially choose-your-own-adventure games via Twitch. Fortunately, that's not the case. So, Telltale has posted on their blog clarifying their upcoming multiplayer component. What was interesting about this is when they initially touted it, they were saying how that the feature could be utilized by up to 2,000 people, which
20,000.
yeah, 20,000 wasn't it? Yeah, so that like was very indicative of the idea of Twitch multiplayer games from Telltale. Hell yeah, that sounds cool. And that's not what it is. So this is more or less it's Telltale announcing a multiplayer feature that is for local multiplayer. So they want you to get a bunch of people together, pull out their phones and tablets, and make a vote similar to the way you would for something like a Jackbox game, and submit your choices for the game that way. So a lot less exciting, but still, at least a little bit noteworthy. I still kind of want to have the conversation, though, about the speculation of I wonder if Telltale will be able to have the technology to address, like the latency issues obvious with Twitch streaming, and then be just like a way to actually facilitate crowd play in their games. It just seems like a really cool idea.
I think how you described it sound cool, like with Twitch playing it. But the thing with a lot of Telltale games is you're, on the very crucial decisions you have, the hourglass, the 8-second hourglass.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. How is that gonna, if they reduce that, say from like 8 seconds or increase it to 45 seconds, to kind of sometimes the moment of urgency is lost
Absolutely,
in like
yeah.
a Walking Dead. But I think if they found a way to make it with a story that fit, maybe it's more of a lighthearted story, I think that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if Telltale can fix their writing, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
That's a deep cut, man.
I I appreciate Telltale games. Like I really enjoyed Wolf Among Us and the original Walking Dead, but recently their games they've still seemed very formulaic and not as good.
Which in particular gave you this bad taste in your mouth?
Walking Dead 2 and the Game of Thrones one specifically
Game
were
of Thrones was like a fucking snorefest.
Really?
Just-
Oh.
Oh, so
it-
bad.
they really kind of take away your choice with the most recent games. Not that you ever really had a lot. Telltale games have a kind of a reputation for giving you the illusion of choice in a lot of stuff, but recently they've kind of been worse at hiding it, and it just feels like you're being taken along for the ride as opposed to being a part of the ride.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how fast like those Telltale games went from this is like amazing to every single one is being like, at least for me, I'm like, I don't want to play this. Like it's now just like I can't get excited about a single Telltale game. And I loved, like everybody did, The Walking Dead season 1. You know, it was my favorite game of 2012, and I thought it was kind of like a bit of a revolution, not just for Telltale obviously, but for adventure games in general. What I would not have wanted was for them to do what they've done, which is just like, well, we're just gonna make like that game and acquire every license you like.
Yeah.
That was gonna. They went exactly. I think they went the opposite direction. I would have liked to see. They were like, you liked it? You liked it? Here's 30 more, and they just oversaturated the market.
It's like me with Isaac episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me paint a picture. Ryan, let me give you the golden key. You're the CEO of Telltale Development.
Yeah.
And season 1 Walking Dead comes out. How do you follow that up? Or how would you follow that up instead of
I would probably do
doing
exactly what they did.
That's great.
I think it's brilliant. It doesn't make me want to play the games, but I don't want to play Minecraft. I don't want to play Batman. I don't want to play those. But I like those games.
Yeah.
So what could you have done, I guess?
Well, I mean, like from a creative standpoint, if I was going to make like the best product, what I would be thinking is like, okay, let's focus on making like 2 adventure games a year or something like that, and just like not worry about the licenses so much, just make like cool original adventure games. But the problem is that's going to have much less appeal on a massive level. But I also sort of feel like each one that comes out is kind of like eroding that must play, because like that's, even if you weren't that into like zombie games, The Walking Dead, everyone was like, even if you don't like them, you have to play it. Even if you haven't played or haven't read the comic, even if you haven't seen the show, you have to play The Walking Dead. It's that good.
Well,
and then Wolf Among Us, people were like, Wolf Among Us is really good. But if you're if you're burned out on Telltale games, you don't have to play it, but it's really good. And then Game of Thrones, people were like, if you really like the source material, you can play it.
If you really like the source material, you could probably just go watch Game of Thrones again.
Yeah.
But then
It's,
Minecraft, everyone was like,
Oh, God. Yeah.
everyone was like, I don't really think you need to play this at all. And then they're on like Batman now, and I'm just sort of like, why would I be? It's the Sonic thing.
It
I'm
just
kind of
feels
like,
every month we're getting because not only are they oversaturating with so many games, all of them are episodic as well.
Yeah,
So like every
yeah.
fucking month we're getting like a new episode of something is coming
like
out.
bam, bam,
so
bam.
it's just too much. Like I don't have enough care in me to spread that amongst all of the Telltale games. Like I just don't care.
Yeah, that's what happened with me actually with like Game of Thrones. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I read the books, watched the show. I love it. I just love all of it. And then when the game was announced, I was super excited. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love Telltale. Love Game of Thrones. It should be amazing.
Perfect
And
combo.
then I played the first episode, and I was like, all right, that was pretty good. But then, I had to wait a month for the next one to come out, and then it came out, and I was just like, oh, I'll get to it eventually. Never got to it.
Austin,
Never got to it.
If you could go on a date with one of the female characters from
Oh,
Game
yeah,
of Thrones,
we got to carry
which
this
one would it be?
Here we go.
conversation on.
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, the easy answer is Daenerys, right? But
Is that the easy answer?
I think that's the easy answer. I mean, Cersei, that's too crazy for my book, I think.
Yeah, but you know what they say about crazy ladies.
yeah, they fuck
Mathis,
with
what
others.
about you? I know Ryan and Barry.
Why are we at this? Is a dumb.
It's an A or B question. Who'd you?
It's not an A or B question. There's a
Clearly
C, a
not.
D,
Yeah, there's like
G.
a million answers. Stannis Baratheon.
There you go. I like that play. I want to go with one of the wolves, man. I just want to go on a badass wolf expedition. That'd be dope as hell.
Go Ramsay Bolton.
Oh,
the last
God.
Wolf.
Flay, Queen Flay.
So about the actual, I mean, this is probably a little insignificant in the long run, but Does the idea of that local multiplayer mode have any appeal to you guys at all, as far as the future Telltale goes?
I will say, for playing with a spouse or girlfriend, I think that may bring some value to the table. I think it, instead of like you two making a decision together and one person pushing a button, I think it could be fun for maybe like a small group of friends or a family, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it could be a party game. It's not really my first idea of a party game to have, like, let's.
Mom, who do we save, Mom? You gotta pick now.
Would you like? It's been a while. Can you pause the game during the hourglasses?
No.
I don't think so.
So you couldn't be like, here's the choices, pause for like 5 seconds, let it filter to Twitch, and then unpause?
Well, I mean, theoretically, I'm sure that they could construct something like that, but that's not the way that it worked in the previous titles. So I wish that were what we were talking about right now. Honestly, that would be really encouraging, but yeah, that's just our hypotheticals at the moment. Well,
I'm very for this. I am extremely for this, because it's just another. I probably won't play it, no. But it's a way to like. It's a cool thing for like if it works on Twitch, like subscriber stuff, to have like an ability to do a playthrough that's like a little collective, I guess. So people in chat are saying they saw Geek and Sundry do that, like give the chat the choice to make the decision.
Oh, they just paused it, really? Okay.
I don't know if it works. Maybe in the new ones it'll work because it's built for it. But
game, it's Batman.
Batman,
right?
yeah. And Batman's the only one that's going to have it to start with. I think it's what they're like testing it out on.
Right, but they will incorporate it into all of their releases in the future too.
So I think it makes it a little bit more likely to play through Telltale games, because it would be a cool thing to stream. And I think it is like a kind of a transformative way to do it as well, because it's not like you're playing the game and everybody's watching you. You really are experiencing it together, because you're just as likely to like make a decision that doesn't end up being the right decision. Like you could be like, hey, I want to save this person, and chat's like, LOL, sorry, we murdered them, and you're like, oh, come on, guys. Like, it's actually like you're watching like a piece of fiction because you don't have 100% control over it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that concept. I hope that they continue to investigate it, because they clearly have thought about it, at least to a certain capacity. So we'll see.
I know they've done this at PAX. They've done like group play sessions for the new episodes of their games. So they did like a Tales from Borderlands. I don't know how they did it though. If they just had like people in the audience vote with an eye clicker or something like that, and then they chose whatever they selected. But I think that's probably what influenced this, and I think it's a good decision.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right. Let's talk about We Happy Few in early access real quick. We Happy Few has gotten plenty of buzz. Mathis, you want to tell me about your initial impressions here?
Very lukewarm.
Real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you explain what it is for those of us that just think it's a BioShock survival game?
I mean, it kind of is important to do that now, yeah.
So We Happy Few takes place in London or England in 1964, in a world where World War II, Germany won. And as far as we know in the story, England did something horrible to remove Germany from the country. And to forget what they did, they now take something called joy pills, which it's a hallucinogenic, basically, and all the world looks like colorful and happy and bright and awesome. But when you're off your joy, like, you see the reality of what the world is, and you're trying to figure out why your memories are gone, what's going on in England, what happened in World War II. It's a really intriguing world to live in, to play in. I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. So I'm very lukewarm on it because the story's not in the game right now. The first 15 minutes, the story's there to set up the world, but then the story's gone. They're not going to have that until the game fully comes out. So it's going to be in early access for about a year before it's going to be like a 1.0 release. They're going to be 3 separate main characters, and the game plays like a permadeath roguelike. Why are we all laughing right now?
Wait, so it's a survival game with a story? That's how I'm taking it?
Yeah, well, that's what caught me off guard. I didn't know much about the game going in. I should put that out there. front and center. I thought this was going to be kind of like a Sir, You Are Being Hunted, where there were very light survival elements, but it was more of a story-driven game. But when I picked up the game, the first 15 minutes were amazing. It was all very narrative, focused, kind of driven. There was no survival elements. You're kind of just going through this office, and you decide to not take your joy pills anymore, and you start realizing you're working for a newspaper, and the newspapers you're working on are like 20 years out of date, and you start realizing the world for what it is. And then you go out into the world, and all of a sudden you're managing hunger, thirst, sleep, like dirty bandages, clean bandages, rotten food, purified water. It is basically a hardcore survival game in a dystopian 1960s England, is what it is. Mm-hmm. And apparently, some people knew that. You're just gonna cut it? Yeah, it's like no, thank you.
It doesn't sound fun at all. What's fun about it?
Do you like survival games? You'll enjoy it, I guess.
I think the biggest issue I feel personally with this game that most people have is that it wasn't what they thought it was going to be.
And their marketing is weird because their E3 demo was the first 15 minutes of the game where it was story driven.
Yeah.
But people who played the pre-alpha that was given when the game first got kickstarted knew it was going to be a survival stealth game. Now
Right.
people, like, the marketing is all over the fucking place. And it's weird because this game is in early access and people are like, well, you don't want an early access game because you know you're going to be, helping it along in development and you're not getting the full experience and all that stuff. But at the same time, they're very much marketing this to be bought now. They're like, it's you check it out, look at it. It's this highly anticipated game. So I went in knowing nothing. And disclaimer, I got a code from the developers. I didn't pay for it. And when I walked out and I was like, oh, it's a survival game, and there's an objective that you have to go do, and I was like walking to that objective, and then my character's like, you're really thirsty, you're really tired, you should find a safe house, you don't want to be outside at night, and I had to stop halfway to that checkpoint and turn around and start looking for a safe house to sleep in. It immediately gutted me of any of the excitement. I was like, oh fuck, I don't want to do this. And if you eat rotten food, your character gets sick, and I just wanted to shoot myself in the face. I just did not care.
You kind of answered my question. I was asking at the beginning here, why is this game in early access? Because I thought the same thing. I thought it was a story-driven game, looked very BioShocky. I just really assumed that it was all that. But now that you've explained it, it seems like
this is coming
completely
from
different.
A dude who played every survival game under the goddamn sun. And it needs a lot of work, first of all. It still feels very clunky. Even on my rig, without recording it, it runs sub 60 a lot of the time. And it has weird design issues, like automatically permadeath is on. You can turn it off. There will be 3 characters when you play. And every time you play, if you die, the world is semi-randomly generated. So I know you could turn permadeath off, but it sounds like they want permadeath to be a relatively integral part to the game. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of story-driven side quests, even in this pre-alpha, that have nothing to do with the main story, but there's some story-driven stuff. And to do all that, and then if you die and have to do all that again, I feel like that would yank a lot of the excitement out of the playing. I don't want to go through the story again and again and again and again just to get it. Now, again, you can turn permadeath off. I understand that, but it's on by default, and you have to actively turn it off. And it feels like with the generation of the world, they kind of want you to do multiple runs. I don't know, man. It is not what I was expecting. And as someone who enjoys survival games and has played every single one that exists, it's a world I want to be able to explore and understand the story and not have to worry about my hunger, thirst, and sleep. I don't want to have to worry about that.
So I know, Mathis, you and Bear both play this. Do you guys have anything that's intriguing or engaging or fun or positive about the game to say?
I really like this story. I think this story is
the world
excellent.
Is cool.
Yeah, and as Mathis was saying, I am sort of put off by the idea that I'm almost playing a glorified version of Sir, You Are Being Hunted mixed in with a BioShock level of story here. It's an interesting fusion that I can't even tell if they're actually going for. I don't know if they went into this with the idea of we want to fuse together an excellent story with a hardcore survival game.
Yeah.
And if that's the concept, then I don't know. I don't think it works very well, man. You can't combine those two.
I would urge you not necessarily to play, because I would say not spend the money on this, especially now. It's too early.
Mm-hmm.
But watch somebody's first 15 minutes in the game, and watch that initial story narrative driven experience. That's where the strength of this game, I think, is right there with the world, with what they're trying to tell you.
Which is basically like the
story.
E3 demo, right?
Yes, it's the E3 demo essentially. Just go watch that because I think it's worth watching. But there's too much happening in the game. There's way too many mechanics with the stealth, the survival, the weird roguelike permadeath situation, crafting.
Yeah.
God. I just don't like. It's a
Sounds
chore.
like a hot mess.
It is. It feels like an incredible. It feels like a very incredible hot mess. So, just wait.
Yeah.
It's not.
Eggy, what do you think? Eggy, what were you laughing at, Eggy?
I haven't played it yet, man. I don't know. It's early access, so I mean, here's the reason we're talking about it is because it was hotly anticipated, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason that we're talking about We Happy Few as opposed to, X survival game that entered early access in a somewhat unpolished or unfinished state at the present moment. So, I mean, it's not like the criticisms are disingenuous, but I do think that at the same time, it's not out. It's out for purchase, so it's worthy of criticism, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to care about it until it's out.
Wait.
Out.
Yep.
Give
it. I think they said their goal is a year. Give it time. I feel like I said, the world is really cool. I think the world is worth exploring. I want to see. I think everybody who's played it so far. I watched Jim Sterling's little video on it. He said there's potential there. There's a lot of cool ideas happening. I just want to see it come together in a neat, more organized package. And again, I know it's early access, so if you're not willing to go through the rough patches of early access, don't buy it. But I really do think there's potential there. There's too much going on.
Austin, does this sound like something you would play?
I mean, I'm still interested in the game. I don't. Survival doesn't really turn me off for games, so I'm still. Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Turn me on.
No, but this just even furthers my disdain for early access. I feel like whenever you do something like this, you're only creating negative press for your game, and on so many situations. I was the only thing that this release has done is kind of damper my hopes for the game, not significantly, but hasn't done anything good for it, and I think that's just the problem with kind of early access these days. But that's kind of a whole different point altogether.
I don't necessarily agree with the overarching idea that early access is a bad thing, but I do.
I agree.
I think that you're right in that this experience has lowered my expectations and the likelihood that I'll want to check out We Happy Few's full release, which is unfortunate because I do sort of believe simultaneously that, like Mathis says, there is a foundation here that could build into something really great. At the same time, though, I don't want to look at this as this game isn't playing the way I wanted and expected it to play, and therefore it's bad, because I feel like that's also the wrong approach to take. I want to try this, and I want to play it for what they made it to be and be able to enjoy that. But I'm pretty sure...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, something I'm seeing in chat a lot, and something that, even I was surprised with is I think a part of the issue so far is the marketing. A lot of people had no idea this was a survival game.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a core feature of the game, is that it's survival stealth.
Yeah, I had
and the fact that a ton of people were like, I didn't know this was a survival game, speaks to, it wasn't I don't want to say marketed properly, just maybe not marketed properly.
They could have done a better job. Yeah, no, that's not. You're not
at
being
the same
there.
time. If we can, roast ourselves, to thine own self, roast.
I'm happy to.
And I'm not throwing you under the bus specifically when I say this, Mathis, but I think We Happy Few
please do
has illustrated a little bit of the Ouroboros nature of YouTube, where I saw dozens of YouTubers being like, We Happy Few comes out this week, can't wait, can't wait to do videos. And then as soon as it came out, they're like, it's actually not very good right now, but check out my videos anyway. And I'm like, it's like that and again, I'm not trying to be anti-consumer when I say this, but that it is in a way exploiting the game at both ends. Is kind of just the way I feel about it. Is first off, you're using the hype for the game as like a launch pad to get attention on the game and on the videos, and then after that, you're like, game's overhyped. Like
That face when you get roasted by Ryan.
Well, like, here's the thing, right? When it comes to video making, at the very least, I knock out 3 videos all in one sitting, and then I get my opinion about it. And now I'm done with it. Like, I'm not. There's no more videos for We Happy Few coming out.
How did it do on your channel though?
Well, but I think a lot of the reason it did well is because people are like, "What is We Happy Few?" So people are looking for gameplay of it and all this other stuff.
Oh wow, part 1 has 100,000 views. Nice job.
That is not me.
Yeah, I was fucking with you.
Sort of.
Great joke.
Thanks. I just really like to build up his hopes before I just tear him down. It's my favorite thing.
Episodes 4 through 40 coming your way today. We'll see what happens. That's all.
I think Austin had a good point where it's like, hey, early access. You know, I think some games like that aren't story based or have a like strong narrative, it's probably cool for early access. But this one sounds like it's kind of ruined the experience for at least you two that have played for it.
I don't think early access is bad overall. I just think.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. The question was directed to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Early access is done really well sometimes, but I think it's the minority when it's done well. I'm thinking like 10 to 20% of the time early access is a good thing, and most of the time it just kind of spreads out the hype over a long period of time, and a lot of games just kind of fizzle out in that regard.
Then you
So
get another soft launch issue.
yeah, and I think companies really need to think like, do we want to release this now, or do we want to make sure it's at least refined to give a good first impression? Because if you give people a bad first impression, even if the game is good later, you're gonna lose stuff off of that alone. So
I do want to say the game isn't real. I have not run into any game-breaking bugs. The game hasn't outside of a few frame rate dips here and there, it plays well. Like as far as like responsive or the mechanics are there, they're working.
It's just not fun.
I wasn't expecting. I guess. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, it's weird because I dove into this game and the first 15 minutes are exactly what I was expecting out of the game, and then I got put into a totally different game immediately afterward.
Right.
So it threw me off.
You gotta hammer that point home too, because I feel like that is one of the moments where, you know, it changes on a dime almost. It has a complete tonal shift the second you go from point A to point B. And it almost doesn't even feel like the same game. It's that
and again, we know the
stark.
story outside of that, I'm pretty sure, is just not in the game yet. So maybe in the 1.0 release, when the story comes out, it'll be different. Like there might be a goal, but I do feel like the open world survival is going to be the main gameplay loop, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to follow it along its production cycle for sure.
Why are you laughing, Dan?
Chat's nothing.
That's chat standing up.
I think he's got a problem.
Okay. We Happy Few is in early access. It's currently $30 on early access on Steam right now, and expecting full release sometime next year. All right. Quadrilateral Cowboy came out on Steam this week. Ryan, you want to share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, Quadrilateral Cowboy is the new game from Blendo Games, who also made Atom Zombie Smasher, Flotilla, 30 Flights of Loving, and Gravity Bone.
30 Flights of Loving, I love that game.
It is
Gravity
that.
Bone? What is that?
Dan, what are you laughing at?
Gravity Bone?
It's called Gravity Bone. It's anyway. Quadrilateral Cowboy is a stealth puzzle game, and the central conceit is that it has hacking elements. So instead of just like, you know, walking up and like trying to stand in the shadows and avoid enemies, you actually have like basically a computer that you carry around with you, and you can use it to get into the computer systems and security systems, things like cameras and doors and skylights, and then basically you issue programmatic commands in order to turn them off in a sequence and then get out with the objective.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody else played Quadrilateral Cowboy?
I have played a handful of Quadrilateral Cowboy.
Okay.
It's a very difficult word to say.
How far have you gotten in Quadrilateral Cowboy?
I have gotten to, I played like a half hour, so I've gotten to the point where you enter the VR zone, and then you're breaking past like those first couple of instances. So
the first mission.
Yes. The first mission. Yes.
It seems really cool so far. I've only played maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, but I'm doing a series on YouTube, so I'm trying to keep myself blind. But it's basically like a puzzle game that's played in first person with stealth elements, which is neat. And it is, when you think of a game like Factorio or Space Chem or Infinifactory or even Human Resource Machine, these are all games that have like programming concepts in the game, but they take much more of like a dry, almost like arithmetic approach to it. Like the mechanic is the focus. In Quadrilateral Cowboy, it's an actual like narrative experience with that stuff just at its core. So it's a little bit more, I guess, robust as far as that goes. But it still has that kind of feeling of like, okay, there's two doors. If the doors stay open for longer than 3 seconds, then the alarm goes off. So I have to like write basically like a small line of code that will allow me to get in and get out. So like, open this door for 3 seconds, wait 3 seconds, open this door for 3 seconds, wait 3 seconds, then come back and grab it. And the gadgets that they give you later are really cool as well. Like, I don't know if you have the Weevil yet, Bear?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you get the Weevil after you complete the first mission.
Jeez,
but the Weevil is basically like a remote camera / like hacking tool that looks like a quadruped, like a little insect or like tiny animal or something. So you use like your computer, and then you go like, okay, connect to Weevil, and then you get like a camera feed on your CCTV, and then you have to like type, go 200, and then it walks in the direction that it's going 200, and you can use that to like remotely data jack into things to issue commands and get you objectives and stuff like that. It seems really cool so far.
I like, so of what I've played, I've really enjoyed it. I like that it's sort of like this fusion between those sort of programming games, like you mentioned, like Factorio. It's got like, as far as what you actually see, it's got sort of a jazz punk feel to it for me.
Extremely.
And then I don't know, I'm getting like vibes of games like Monaco and Gunpoint with the sort of stealth maneuvering that you've got going on too. So it's like a nice fusion of all those sorts of games put together. But I also really enjoy, I've actually like seen a little bit of the later stuff too, and I like that for the most part it doesn't really like try to break your brain with anything. I think it's a lot more concerned about letting you experience the story and experience the game itself rather than trying to challenge you too much with these programming puzzles, which I feel is probably going to be something that breaks past a barrier of entry for me for games like this, to where I can't play things like RimWorld, for example. Like I tried RimWorld and I knew that you would like it. I know Mathis really enjoys it. It's definitely not up my alley just because there's a little bit too much going on and a little bit too much brain power needed to actually play the game well. But in Quadrilateral Cowboy, you've got these programming functions that make you feel like a genius, but it's actually fairly simple and pretty easy to understand.
Yeah, in contrast to something like Human Resource Machine, where you have like a huge built-in amount of advantage if you know anything about programming, really the first like 2 hours or hour and a half of Quadrilateral Cowboy are like walk or go, open, and then that's basically it.
Right.
Off. Like you only need like 4 commands.
I don't want to throw anything out there, but could a guy like me fire it up and play
A guy like me.
Because I watch like 30
I'm a
seconds of
regular
video.
old Joe from down south. What do you think I got?
The only
I
reason
saw 30 seconds of your video and there's numbers and like programming. I'm like, oh, it's just Ryan working on Python again. Like I don't. I'm like, would I get this game?
The only reason you wouldn't be able to get it, and I think this will be true for a lot of people, is that they'll look at it and be like, I don't immediately understand what's happening. But they do, like, the tutorialization is extremely gentle. And if you really think of it as like, just think of it as like a platforming game almost, but instead of having like a jump and a shoot, you have the ability to open doors remotely. And that's basically all you need to get started. And I actually, like, what Bear is saying is true. It seems like as you get further and further into the game, they don't really like build on the previous mechanics all that much to create like one huge like unifying puzzle that is going to break your brain. Instead, they're like, this is the Weevil mission. You take the Weevils with you and you learn how to use them. This is the fan mission. You take the fans with you and you learn how to use them. But you don't really get like to the point. I can tell you're trying to hold it together here. Yeah.
No, I think this game was designed for you and people of your intellect.
I don't necessarily. First off, thank you. Secondly, I don't necessarily think so. Honestly, instead of like if you say the P word, programming, people are going to turn off and be like, "Well, I don't like programming. I don't know how to program. My brain doesn't work that way." But all it really is like simple logic puzzles that you can actually work through for yourself. So it's much simpler than a game like even RimWorld, for example. And RimWorld is more of like a survival game, but it has programmatic elements in terms of like trying to optimize how your colony is like automated and stuff like that. That's way
you anyway, so it doesn't
and you just die anyway. But the game this is way simpler. Like it's basically the levels that Bear is doing right now is literally just like my objectives here. Open the doors on the way to the objective, and you don't even have to like set it up in advance. You literally like carry your computer with you, and then you like go to the grate that you have to open, and you're like open grate 4, and then you just go inside, and you just learn like rules that you have to follow as you go. But what's neat is that there is workshop support, and I'm hoping that this game attracts geniuses, and then they're like, okay, the puzzles in the game are not hard enough for me. I want to make like some stuff that's actually going to be challenging for people who understand, programmatic concepts a little bit more.
Do you have to remember all the syntax, or is there like a side inventory that gives you, or is it not that complicated?
No, you can remember it, or you can actually like it's like MS-DOS or like command line basically. So you can type help, and it'll just give you a list of the commands there that you can use.
What was the There was another programming game that you were playing recently, Ryan, that was like very straightforward with its programming elements.
Gladiabots?
That might have been it.
It was you program AI basically, and then they fight against one another, and they try to score goals, but also shoot each other.
Yeah, I think that might have been it actually. Yeah, so games like that. I feel like games like that, and maybe games like Factorio, and there was another one that was like.
Duskers maybe.
Duskers was another
Just
one.
keep rattling them off, man. I think like eventually we're
was
gonna
that
get
one
there.
where you were in an office.
Human resource machine.
Yes, human resource machine. Yeah. So
Okay,
things like that, where it's like very upfront and straightforward with the programming elements, and that is off-putting to people like me for sure. But I think Quadrilateral Cowboy has done a good thing in sort of like bridging that divide between people like me who are never going to play games like Human Resource Machine, and the folks that can sort of get into the programming a little bit and let it be incorporated into a grander scheme here. And I think Quadrilateral Cowboy has done a good job of that.
What's neat about it is that I think that there's an easy way to do levels, and then there's a hard way to do levels, and much like a lot of programming, doing the hard way is just for bragging rights. Like you're like, I've got a solution for this level, but it's kind of clumsy. Like, I want to do it elegantly. So there's one level, which is Mission 3 of Job 1. So you may or may not have done it. On the first one, you just, like, take photos of the contract. On the second one, you, like, learn to use the wait command. And then on the third one, you actually have to, like, get out using one command that's timed properly to get up to the top of the building before you get shot. And that mission, like, opened my mind where I was like, I could actually just write the program on the roof and then execute it and do the whole mission. And as long as it's actually timed properly, I don't have to touch the computer. I could literally just write out like the perfect script and then jump down and then just walk in, grab it. And as long as it actually stayed like true to the timing, you could beat the mission only using your computer at the start of it, which is really cool.
And I swear to God, there was another game that did something that was like exactly like that we talked about pretty recently too, where you program the entire thing ahead of time, and then you go based off of that. It sounds so goddamn familiar. I can't place the game name though. But yeah, anyway. So
I will say Ryan has intrigued me enough. I'm gonna try it. I'll do like a 20-minute video on it, and then I'm either gonna blame him and say, "Hey, this is over my head," or it is there. But on the flip side, I just say if there was a graphic novel or biography on Ryan, I think the appropriate title would be Quadrilateral Cowboy. I could see that being like the title of your biography. But sorry, Bear, I cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm looking at chat to see if anybody may have remembered which one it was. I don't think it was Infinifactory, but
No, chat have been posting different programming syntax.
Oh,
that's been highly entertaining. That's what I was laughing at.
All right.
I think like if there's one like last word for Quadrilateral Cowboy, it would be like, I'm not saying everybody has to buy it, but if you look at it and you go, this guy like is programming stuff, it's not like that.
No.
Like it's not like Human Resource Machine where they're like, hey, like build a graphical representation of like a while loop. Like that, I can understand that that's inside baseball, and you're like, if you're into it, you're like, I'm so into this. This is cool. If you're not into it, you're like, this is the dumbest shit of all time. Quadrilateral Cowboy is a game that uses logic as the central mechanic for puzzle solving.
Yes.
So instead of like matching 3, you're typing, match open parentheses 3. That's basically the difference.
Are you like when you're done playing? Are you going on the website and reading the lore into the game? Are you that into it, Ryan?
No. But I'm not that into
little
that
bit.
game.
Mathis or Austin, are you guys gonna play this? Or
I'll try it. Ryan, it's intrigued me. I've played a few programming-esque game. Duskers was one I really enjoyed. So I'll definitely check out Quadrilateral.
It's hard to say. You get that one 3 times fast.
Duskers with like less downtime. Like that was my problem with Duskers is you're like, okay, go to this room, but you got to be like really slow about it or methodical. You don't really have to do that so far in Quadrilateral.
This is going to be my recommendation from now on for folks who are like wondering if they like those programming sorts of games. This is the entry point, I think. Is like if you can enjoy Quadrilateral Cowboy, then you can like proceed from that point on. It is currently 5% off. Special promotion ends August 1st.
Shit.
You can save $1. It's a normal price of $20 on Steam's Quadrilateral Cowboy. And that will bring us into everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Ask Roundtable. Ask Roundtable is the weekly segment where every week you send your questions to roundtableyt@gmail.com. We're going to do our best to answer them. Very in-depth question this time coming from Jake. Thank you very much, Jake, for the question. He asks, let me give you guys the whole setup for this one here. So, I am losing faith in games as an effective medium for storytelling. Attempts at making players' decisions influence the narrative are often just empty illusions, parentheses Telltale, weirdly enough. I had no idea he actually wrote this in his email. And playable movies are becoming more common, where the player interaction and gameplay is secondary or perhaps completely redundant. I feel this is the reason Inside's narrative was refreshing to so many and story is effective. What is it specifically that games as a medium lend to the art of storytelling? Are they currently effective at achieving this? Can you think of a standout example of storytelling in a game with the player interaction not just a distraction or something to do in a way which would not be served equally or more effectively through film or another less interactive medium? So essentially, what is it specifically that games as a medium lend to the art of storytelling? Anybody want to start off with this one?
I mean,
Player interaction,
Yes.
right? Like I feel like that's its unique. Well, I feel like that's its driving because without player interaction, it's just a movie.
Mm-hmm. Can you think
So
of
I think that's.
Can you think of like a standout example for storytelling in
player-
games?
Brothers was really, really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
really good.
I feel like I'm not done with it, but The Witcher is fucking incredible. It's all of its side quests are great side stories.
Mm-hmm.
To a weird extent, I think Dark Souls' way of telling a story is really interesting because there's a lot of player autonomy there. If you want to know the story, the player has to go out and seek it. Any of, I guess, David Cage's games, even though they end horribly every time, there's a lot.
When I was thinking about this, I was thinking Journey is probably the one that personally struck a chord the strongest as far
Journey
as...
I didn't even think of that. Journey
Just
was
the ability to tell a story via this medium, I think Journey encompassed that pretty damn well. Not just by virtue of what Journey is, but I feel like the multiplayer aspect of Journey is something that we sort of brush under the rug pretty commonly.
That's what made the game for me.
Absolutely.
Was the multiplayer. Because my personal story in Journey, going through it all, was really early. I met this one player. We went through the whole game together up until the final level where he took a knee for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, what's happening? And he disappeared. He disconnected.
Yeah.
And then somebody else came along, and for like the last 5 minutes of the game, I had this new player, and I was like,
This isn't-
guy. I don't want this guy. I want my old friend back. Like, I want my friend back. And that was just a weird feeling to be attached to somebody that you couldn't verbally interact with, that you played the past hour or two with, and then to lose him at the last minute and get somebody different, even though, physically they look similar and again, you can't talk to them. That hit me. I remember. I'll always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically echo that.
Yeah, chat might go a little crazy here, but I gotta say it. I really think Undertale's a really good example.
Sure.
Of this. It's become a meme now, so I feel like I can't even say it. But no, it really takes that idea of this is a game, and I'm gonna further that. I'm gonna use that as a storytelling element, the game itself.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna mess with the player because I know the player's there, and it really kind of takes that to like a place that I don't think a lot of games have actually gone to, which is really good. And I don't even mean just the story itself. I'm talking about what the game does with the story and with the player.
Yeah.
Undertale's not going to be a movie for that reason. You just can't do it.
When Bear kind of put this question out there, you're kind of asking for, hey, you're asking for like a fruit, right? I'm going to tell you, I may not give the answer you want. I'm not going to give you the fruit. I'm going to give you the taste of the fruit.
Star Citizen.
No. I'm going to give you the taste of the fruit. So there's been like 2 games in recent history that have like kind of moved me where it's like, hey, this was kind of more than a game, or at least you feel emotionally in a way that you normally don't when you're playing other games. And the first one was Red Dead Redemption. At the end, I'm not going to spoil anything. I was like, I couldn't believe that happened.
Yeah.
I reloaded the previous save to see if I could adjust that, and I was like silent for like 15 minutes after. I'm like, damn, It's like Ricky. And then the second one was the first season of The Walking Dead. At the end, when, you've seen this beautiful relationship develop, and then it happened. Like I look at maybe not, hey, is it a medium for storytelling, but just in terms of having an emotional effect playing a game, those are 2 very, very memorable experiences that you'll always remember how you felt when that happened, at least in my case.
Yeah, definitely. I want to echo for Walking Dead Season 1, because as much as we've weirdly shit on Telltale this week's episode, I do want to say I still consider that to be one of the pinnacles of game storytelling. That game is phenomenal.
EAE, early Undertale. I mean, Undertale.
early
Telltale.
Yeah.
Early Telltale.
Where are my early Undertale players at? Where are the betas? Ryan, you have a pinnacle example of storytelling in games?
Yeah, I actually agree with Mattis when he said Brothers. I think it's a really good example of a game that has a narrative hook that can only be represented in games. Like, it uses the fact that you are interacting with it, without spoiling it, in a way that actually enhances the narrative. And then the other thing I would say is like games with emergent gameplay. So stuff like Crusader Kings, Prison Architect, RimWorld, where you make up your own stories. You can't have like emergent filmmaking, I think. If someone tells you like the story of their time watching Captain America Civil War, you're gonna fall asleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got the biggest popcorn, but they didn't put any butter on it, and I was like, who cares? But games are kind of unique in that fashion. But I do sympathize with the person asking the question. I think when games do like traditional storytelling in the style of a movie in particular, because it seems like that's what they're most influenced by, a lot of the time it leaves a lot to be desired, because instead of having like a movie that's tight and fills 120 minutes or something like that, you got to be like, well, here's the hero, and like, okay, a bad guy killed his wife and son, and then at the end he's going to get revenge on them. You got to throw in like 100 side quests in the middle, like get your farm going, make sure the corn's growing all right. And then in a movie they would just be like, can we cut this part where he spends like an hour growing his farm? It seems like that really doesn't make, and doesn't advance the plot with respect to him killing the person who killed his wife and son. But in a video game, you're like, we got to fill 20 hours here, or people are going to be mad. So I think
for me, yeah. Good. Sorry.
No, I mean that was just like to the end of my point. I think games that do like non-traditional storytelling do a better job of it.
I think that's why I have such a draw to these emergent gameplay style games, which survival games kind of lend themselves naturally, but to games like RimWorld, why I love them so much, because the story that's being told while I'm playing it is going to be different than when you're playing it, and I can tell you about my brain-dead colonists being kidnapped by pirates and them trying to ransom them back to me, and me being like, nah, he's your problem now, and then compared to like what happened to you in RimWorld when you played it. This is really fun.
Am I the only one here that didn't like Brothers? Like I didn't.
You didn't like Brothers?
Yes,
No.
you're the only one here that didn't like it.
Why did you guys like it? Like,
I thought it was fantastic. I
memorable?
thought it was the play style was quite unique. I thought that the story was phenomenal. I thought the art was beautiful. I thought the soundtrack was terrific. I thought that you were a cool guy for like a while until just now, and now my opinion has changed drastically.
No, I mean, but essentially the story is like, hey, you're these 2 brothers, and you find out at the end, like, it was this journey.
Don't
to
you do it? Don't you say? Don't you say what happens at the end?
That and like I'm gonna get you guys get mad at me. That and Gone Home, I'm like,
I'm kind of in your camp with Gone Home, to
like,
be honest. I think Gone Home was a little overhyped.
No, but guys on a podcast pump up these like new, whatever games, and they're like transcending, and it's really just to me, it wasn't as gripping as something like I don't know any other story game I've ever played.
Oh, damn!
to avoid spoilers as best as possible, I think the ending of Brothers seems really cliche until they you get like a minute later and you see why they did that cliche, and they make it reasonable at that point.
Not to mention, like this is probably going to be as close to actually spoiling it as I can get, but I had an actual physical response to the ending.
Was it a boner?
Yes.
You're like, man.
Not just like in the sense of like my emotional reaction to it, but because of the way the game plays, like it changes how you play it based on that ending. So like that actually created a physical reaction in me that was like, oh geez, I've lost something here, So that probably spoiled it.
Good job.
Definitely did.
But anyway, I think sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say To the Moon as another one, but To the Moon to me feels like it could be a movie. Like I don't know, it doesn't do a lot with the gameplay itself. I think that
I agree.
I think To the Moon
true.
It's a fantastic story and is amazing, but I don't think it needs to be a game. So.
While we're on that subject, though, I know Nick is in chat. Nick, play To the Moon.
Yes,
play it.
Yeah, that's what I haven't played it either. But every time someone talks about it, like I just think of people having these I want to say over the top, but very strong emotional reactions to it. Like I've heard people like sobbing and like I don't even know what it's about. But when you said that, that's the first thing I thought of. X, Y, and Z people said it's highly emotional. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair?
I shed a tear. I did.
Okay. One of the few games to actually make me cry. Yeah.
What's the like storyline without spoiling it, or what's the tagline?
I don't even want to say anything, honestly.
You can't.
You should just go into it knowing as little as possible.
It's a game maker game, so I mean you got to know that going in, but
yeah,
it doesn't hinder it. I don't think.
Is that like Mathis's equivalent of hating Unity games?
Could be.
Listen,
I think we'll probably hate
I don't hate Unity games. Unity games just come with this. They just all look so similar. Is the problem.
So you hate them all. I
don't. Look, every survival game on early access is on Unity, so I have this natural distaste for what a Unity game looks like.
No, man, this is just saying that Unity is like modern medicine. It's like a lot of games that, maybe shouldn't exist, do exist because of Unity, and maybe the world would be a better place if it didn't exist.
Hey, thanks, Jake, for that Ask Roundtable
like
question. If you've got more questions to send us, feel free to send those over to roundtableyt@gmail.com. And real quick, we're not going to do everybody's favorite segment after their favorite segment, but we're going to do a new segment called Dan's Weird Games.
I gotta go get it.
Well, he's got to hold on, Dan. You got to pick a theme song for us, man, while you're here too.
Just have Brian sing one.
All right, go freeform, man. What do you want?
Whatever you want, Brian.
It's fucking
do Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh.
I don't like the. Okay. Let's see. I only know 2 lines of Joe Walsh. Though, I mean, it's not a Knicks game, it's a Dan's Weird Game. Not for the PlayStation 2, it's not the same. If I had to guess, it's on the NES. Released in America, because that's what Dan knows best.
Nice.
That's good.
Very good.
All right, we got a
Very
high chat.
All right, so the first thing I want to say that this is if Nick's has weird games, this would be like
Dan's very well-known games.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. And this is Nick. I've learned everything from you. I tried to grab. So basically, there's 2 games that just showed up in my office, and so I'm like, what are these weird games? I never knew them. Anyways, so it was first. You guys need to know the console, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it came out on the original Xbox.
Okay.
Whoa, okay.
Then we need release year.
2003.
2005.
Okay.
Oh.
And there's 3 publisher logos on here. How do I do it?
Just give them all to us, man. Fuck it.
Midway, Havoc, and Cartoon Network Interactive.
First of all, Havoc is the engine they use.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Engine.
Cartoon Network Interactive.
This is the Ed and Eddie game. It's not.
This is the Powerpuff Girls, the game.
What Cartoon Network games came out?
Oh,
Oh! Yeah!
wow. Good job, Bear.
My first one! And it's not even a real
Holy
one.
Christ. That's amazing.
That was incredible.
I don't even have an Xbox, so but Bear, that's impressive. I'm like,
Oh my
Was
god, I can't believe that.
how did you pull that out?
I have
Through- you
no
had-
fucking idea, man. It just,
had
as soon as you said Cartoon Network, it was like, yeah, it might be that.
the Dan's
Yeah.
Easy Games, I guess.
Dan.
Would anyone else guess that?
Is,
Oh,
is there a
yeah.
tagline? It's like Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Yeah, give us some more info.
Ed,
there.
Ed, Eddie, the Misadventures. And I can't do a Nick voice, but in this tag team adventure game, switch Eds on the fly to take advantage of their unique abilities. You'll encounter every favorite. Who cares? Did you play
No,
this
I
game? Ben?
care. No, I didn't even play it, man. So this
I
is.
think I've seen it before. Now that you say you switch between the characters, I think I've seen this. I don't know where though.
You'll encounter all of your favorite characters from the show as you make your way through the cul-de-sac, scamming the neighborhood kids.
Damn it.
Collect jawbreakers and coins to unlock bonus content. Did anyone play this game?
I didn't play it, no.
Watch the shit out of the show.
Yeah, I love the show. The show's great.
Great show.
So yeah, well,
Hell yeah, dude.
job.
Well, that was awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching this episode of Roundtable Live. Hope you enjoyed it. We're wishing Nick well. Again, hopefully he'll be able to join us next week, recovering
I
from
will
that
be missing
surgery.
next week.
Oh, yeah, Mathis will be gone next week as well. Where are you going to be?
I'll be at Gen
Art
Con
Con.
in Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah, nice.
You'll be at Gen Con. I will be
what's
there.
Gen Con?
It's a lot of board games and some video games. So I'm excited. So if you're going to be there, say hello if you see me.
We want to thank our Patreon supporters as well. Patreon.com/roundtable is where you can go if you want to support the show financially. Of course, we really, really appreciate those of you who choose to do so, including but not limited to our $20 and up supporters. Those are General Crunk, Jonathan Graham, Matt, Julian Avelsgaard, Scrouty119, Artsy Fartsy, new one there. I like that name a lot. Nerdy is Fly, David Schmitz, Greenlight, Mavier, Brizzlebrip, Oren Saltzman, Myth Scarab, Eric Schooley, Mediocrities, Super Monoman, Smurfette, Logan Ray, Christopher Flagg, Justin, and Positron. Thank you guys very much for your continued support over there on Patreon. You can follow us on Twitter at RoundtablePC. Catch the show discussion over on our subreddit, which is roundtablepodcast.reddit.com. You can rate the show 5 stars on iTunes. You can catch the VOD over on our YouTube channels. That's BaerTaffy, Mathis Games, Rockley, Smile, and sometimes Northern Lion. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching this week's show, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Hi guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Whispering.